moving east at about 30 miles per hour. I've gotten no reports of whether or not it's a large tornado or if it's just a brief touchdown. Nonetheless, we treat it as if it's a big tornado that could impact your area. So right now in Kankakee, we've got the rotation really clearly showing up on the velocity data. The greens and the reds are right next to each other. That's where the storm is spinning, and likely spinning fast enough and tight enough to produce a tornado that's dropping to the ground. So we've got this tornado warning in effect until 7 o'clock for Kankakee County. And I've been highlighting this throughout the course of the afternoon. Cheryl has too during the 5 o'clock news, that these areas south where it's so much warmer than it is here in the city, that's where we've got the concern of tornadoes. So down to the south, and let me move the map down a little bit. You see temperatures are in the upper 60s and 70s in Pontiac and Rensselaer. Right along that warm front, which is directly over top of Kankakee right now, is where there's the spin located in the atmosphere where these storms can really get rotating down at the surface ground level and produce tornadoes. If you're north of that warm front, if you have temperatures in the 40s and 30s right now, there is zero chance of a tornado unless that warm front were to lift northward, which is not expected to happen, at least not very far northward. For us here in the city, it's large hail and heavy rain the main concern, but down to the south, that's where we have that tornado threat. Meteorologist Cheryl Scott is with us as well. Cheryl, I know you've been monitoring the chat. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, well, we do have storm chasers out there, and we did get note that there was a tornado in progress, and this storm has a history of producing tornadoes as it was back in Livingston County, and we did see the possibility of a tornado touchdown there, at least reports of funnels touching down. So what we're finding right now is this new tornado warning likely producing a tornado at this time coming in from storm spotters out there at this storm right now. So this is right on top of Kankakee, and we zoom on in and you can clearly see not only are we looking at a bit of a hook here, but also that bright, intense white and pink. That's indicative of some very large hail as well. So this warning will remain in effect until 7 p.m. But this is a classic signature that we're seeing with this storm. It is along and just south of the warm front, so it's getting fed in with all of this moisture. We're seeing the inflow here right to the south of Kankakee. If you are in Kankakee and you're listening to us, you need to be in your safe place. Lowest level of your home, basement. If you don't have a basement, interior room away from walls and windows. This is going to continue to move to the east at about 35 miles per hour, but showing strong signs of circulation right now, just getting very close. It's just to the west of I-57 right now. Even our radar picking up on that spin. So this is a very intense supercell thunderstorm. You can see the green right next to the red there. And
hey,
this
Cheryl,
is where
we're getting reports of intermittent touchdowns.
Yes, that's
the latest information.
I'm not surprised because this, I mean, we're looking at velocity and we can see the returns right now, Larry, and it's definitely a clear signature of that red and that green right next to each other. So we zoom in closely. You can even see right on top of I-57, west 500 South Road, east 400 South Road. There's a lot of open land in this area as well as it will continue to move to the east. But anyone in this warning from Moment to Pembroke, you need to be in your safe place. It's moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour. We put a track on this Ganier there at 635, Moments at 640, and Lake Village. You are also in the path of this. This is
Cheryl, now we've got it on the ground.
Okay, we have intense rotation, potentially vortices as well, Larry. This is just a sign of how intense this one supercell thunderstorm is. Sometimes we get a tornado, but also there could be multiple rotations within one supercell thunderstorm. This is a violent, destructive, likely storm that's beginning to really develop in this
Cheryl,
region.
while you're talking, let's split screen with outside because we're getting hail accumulating on the sidewalk right now in downtown from the severe thunderstorm we have in the city right now. If we can split screen with that, we'll keep talking about the tornado though, because that's where the immediate life-threatening situation is located. But we've got hail starting to accumulate on the sidewalk here downtown. But that tornado is very close to downtown Kankakee right now. And that's where we're getting the rotation signature very clearly evident. Cheryl, I know you've got it on your velocity data. Let's go back to the radar. I don't know if we can split the screens here and show what's coming down in the city along with Kankakee, because obviously there you can see it bouncing off the side of the awnings there at the Potbellies right here at State and Lake, the hail coming down downtown. There you go. See, yeah, Cheryl, you see that signature right there? I've got the debris signature pulled up, and right here, south of Kankakee is where the debris ball is located, and you've got a really clear view of that velocity data right now.
We do, and you can see that coupling right next to each other, right on top of, just to the south of Kankakee, crossing over I-57, getting reports coming in of power flashes in this area. We have reports of a confirmed tornado on the ground from storm spotters that are out there tracking this. It is just a violent setup here with all of the moisture, the instability, as well as the wind shear that we have been noting throughout the day. So this is going to be crossing just west of Kankakee Airport, crossing over I-57. So we just want everyone in this area, in this warned zone. Larry's pointing out that hook right now. So from Kankakee, just to the south there along I-57, and then pressing farther to the east. If you are in the path of this, you definitely want to be in your safe place. Be prepared as this storm is moving at about 30 miles per hour. The potential for a tornado on the ground as we speak, as well as very large destructive hail. Larry and Greg.
Yeah, we got quarter-size hail being reported downtown here in the city from this storm. The storm in Kankakee that we're looking at there has obviously the tornado on the ground, but also the impact of large hail, up to a tennis ball to softball size hail with that storm in Kankakee. So just north of that circulation that we're seeing, the circulation right here near Kankakee, that just north of that is where we got the large hail coming down, 2 to 3 inch size hailstones. There's the circulation marker update, very close to Kankakee, may have just crossed over I-57, but it looks like the velocity data is still right here where you get the greens and reds right next to each other. So
just the folks,
dangerous storm there. Greg, you see this is that debris signature right there.
Yeah.
You see it.
Yeah, you see it clear as day, and we knew that was going to pop up. We were waiting for a couple of scans. Basically, the debris signature is as the tornado hits something that gets lofted up in the air, and then the radar can read that it doesn't look like a hailstone, it doesn't look like a raindrop, it's kind of oddly shaped, doesn't look like a bug. It looks like debris from shingles. That means structures have been hit. It also could mean that we've had crops ripped up out of the ground. This time of year, of course, there aren't any, but anything that does not look like a raindrop will trigger that debris signature. I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, again, Kankakee folks need to be in their safe places. If you live in St. Anne, you have to be in your safe place, but downstream a little bit from this as it goes easterly, and probably will start turning maybe even a little bit easterly, southeasterly when you get really intense storms like this. So if you live in like Leesville or Pembroke or Moments, these are all spots where you need to be in your tornado safe zone. And again, on the northern side of that, so as you get up to like Manteno or Grant Park, that is where some large hail can also be contained, and that hail has been reports of having windows being knocked out. So I want to go back and just check out the rotation.
Tornado on the ground approaching Aroma Park, which is near Kankakee.
Which
so
is
that's
right
just northwest of the airport in Kankakee, where a tornado is on the ground right now near Aroma Park, moving into Aroma Park. So again, as Greg was mentioning, if you're in those areas, please get in that safe room.
So likely crossing I-45, crossing Interstate 57 as well. There's Illinois 17 out there. If you notice or recognize any of these road
Aroma Park
names,
is right there on the east side of I-57 there. So just on the other side of Kankakee is where Aroma Park is. And you can see that on the velocity data right here. So you see the couplet right there, the greens and the reds right next to each other. This is likely a few minutes old. So this purple box that is popping on the map, that is a confirmed tornado warning outline. When we have a purple box on the map, that's a tornado warning outline for us.
Just south of Community College.
You got it there? You got it on, okay, perfect. Thank you for that update. Yeah, just south of Community College. So right here in this area, right over I-57 heading into Aroma Park is where this confirmed tornado is on the ground. So a dangerous situation in Kankakee, Aroma Park, and as Greg was mentioning, near Moments, Pembroke, and St. Anne, take your tornado precautions.
And it's getting set right now to cross I-57 too. So if you know anybody who's on I-57 who is anywhere in the immediate vicinity of Kankakee, if they're north of Kankakee or south of Kankakee, just tell them to pull over, stop on the side of the road. Again, if they're not within this zone. Of course, if they're in that zone, they're going to want to get out of there. But if you know that they're on the road off to the north or off to the south, just tell them to stop their progress and let this pass by. Again, crossing I-57 right now during the evening commute and continuing out off to the east. Eventually it will be in Aroma. And as Larry said, when that purple box shows up, that's big news. And the problem with the atmosphere today, and we had been talking about all day long, is it's got the capability to produce not only a tornado, but long-lived tornadoes with winds that could be in excess of 150 miles per hour. So you're starting to get up to EF3 strength, major tornado strength at that point. So this is the problem. This is also why the warning goes till all the way in 7 o'clock. This storm has no competition around it. So it has all that moisture on the south side of the warm front that we've been talking about, all that heat through the course of the day to work with all by itself. The inflow to this storm coming out of the south is completely undisturbed. Again, on the radar,
Greg,
there's
now it's a stovepipe tornado, which means it's a large wedge-like tornado that's on the ground. Looks like a stovepipe. So this is a very violent tornado on the ground, potentially an EF2 and EF3 tornado on the ground right now near Aroma Park, near Kankakee as well. Cheryl, you've been watching it as well. I see this update coming in of the stovepipe tornado.
Exactly. And
you hear that and you just immediately, your heart sinks a little bit, because that means it's a large, violent tornado on the ground at this moment.
Right, and I'm watching some storm spotters and the feeds coming in here on social media as well, and I am seeing some images of a large confirmed tornado on the ground, as you said, and so that is a confirmed report from National Weather Service, a stovepipe tornado continuing on the ground at this point in time, and this is a classic signature. This is what you look for in a textbook when you're studying meteorology, supercell thunderstorms. This is what you're going to find. We have some very strong inflow here, a lot of instability. We have those winds turning with heights that is allowing for the rotation and the spin with this storm. And I know it's 40, 50, much cooler in the downtown Chicago area. Along and south of I-80, Kankakee, temperatures are much warmer, a lot of moisture to work with. And this is what we've been worried and concerned about throughout the day with this large confirmed tornado on the ground right now. Anyone just to the east of I-57, we've been talking about Aroma Park. This will continue to press to the east. So we have Sun River Terrace here just to the east of the storm, as well as Eldridge.
Like
you're a little bit north of that circulation. But Eldridge and Moments, you're in the path of this, and it's just a classic tight signature here on velocity. This is exactly where we're going to find that tornado touching down at this point in time, crossing over I-57 and looking at the images and the videos that we are seeing, and I'm sure our team is working on that to get some of that so we can bring that to you. You're going to find that this is a very large wedge, almost like tornado, but more of a stovepipe tornado continuing on the ground in this area. So if you're in the path of this storm, it would be anyone. Let me just track this for you right where we're finding this couplet with the green next to the red. It's moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour here. We also have a lot of open land. I know this as well. But if these are cities that you are near, or if you have friends or family in Kankakee, you do want to call them, give them a heads up. If you're under this warning, anyone in the pink, that means confirmed tornado here on the ground, something we are monitoring very closely and very dangerous conditions. I believe we have a live view coming in from, this is Kankakee?
This is Kankakee,
This is Kankakee. You see the very heavy rain.
There. You can see the rain coming down. This
Probably
is
some hail
downtown proper Kankakee is not in the tornado path at the moment. It's a little bit to the east of Kankakee. You were talking about the areas where you need to be in your tornado safe room. If you're along 17 here, along Sun River Terrace, this will be crossing over 1 as well, and then eventually towards Talmadge and Moments. Those are the zones where we're most concerned about this tornado rolling off towards the east. Right now over Aroma Park is where this tornado is likely located, or very close to it. So anywhere in that zone there, around 17, that's going to be the marker line for where this tornado will pass through. Right here is 17, just right over, just on the northern part of this storm. There we go back to the radar. You can see all the lightning strikes. This is producing a tremendous amount of lightning. But where you see the hook echo, this storm is moving due east. So if you're in the hail right now, this tornado is just to your south, and it's likely going to pass just to your south. But if you're in dry weather right now, east of this storm, you definitely need to be taking your tornado precautions, because this storm will be tracking off towards the east here, right along 17. So Sun River Terrace to Wykert, Aroma Park, that's the worst of the storm right now in terms of where the tornado is located, heading right towards Talmadge. And of course, the purple areas where up to tennis ball size hail is falling.
And Larry,
as an update?
Well, as we fear getting reports of significant damage on the south side of Kankakee, which would be totally in line with seeing the debris signature that popped up just off to the east of town, which means things got lofted and then observed by the radar after the tornado had moved through. And again, this is probably still on on the ground. I mean, these are some really big time, southern U.S. kind of Gulf type area signatures that you see. Again, or Great Plains, like Cheryl said, you look at a meteorology textbook and this is what tornado looks like for you when you see the bright reds even getting into those yellow and almost white contours directly up against the greens and wrapped like this is too. Just a testament to probably how wide this tornado is, and then those observations of it being a stove-type tornado. So as we take a look here,
3-inch hail reported in Kankakee
on the north side of the storm. That would make sense. Yep, in the hail core of the storm. So again, as Larry had mentioned, Illinois 17 is a do not go zone between Kankakee and Sun River Terrace at this point. If you're anywhere near that road or you travel that road on the way home or you know anybody, you gotta call them right now and tell them that is not the place to be, as there is a large confirmed tornado on the ground right along Illinois 17, about to cross over Illinois 1, 2 within probably about the next 20 to 25 minutes. Moments, Sun River Terrace, Aroma getting hit directly right now, and then it's out towards Talmadge as you get a bit later on, but that's closer to about 35 to 45 minutes away. I want to check the debris signature again just to see if, it's on the ground still, or at least close to being on the ground, or it has been within the last couple of scans. Again, you get this kind of a ball that you see in the signature, and that does mean that stuff is still being lofted up, likely actively by the tornado at this hour. And as I mentioned earlier, this has pretty undisturbed flow into the tornado. You spread out the view on the live Doppler 7 Max, and you see that there is nothing out there off to the south of it. So this is, Larry and Cheryl, just uninhibited and tapping into all of the instability that we've been warning about you all day. And I see out of the corner of my eye out near the Quad Cities area, they're tracking, it looks like tornado warnings as well. So we're going to have to watch those as they cross I-39.
And that's the complex of storms that rolls in later this evening that brings us heavy rain and more hail threat here across much of the area. Going back to the Kankakee storm, I want to show you the shear tracks line for us. So what this is on the map is where I can show you where the rotation has been and where it's trending towards. So right here where you see these lighter shades of blue, that's the tightening of the rotation as it crossed over I-57 and where we're getting reports of the significant damage on the south side of Kankakee. Now that's rolling through Aroma Park and again traveling just south of 17 here near Moments as well. So as I switch back to the radar perspective, there's the updated hook echo right here. Now moving out of Kankakee is the worst of the storm. Right there is the ball of where this tornado is located and likely lofting debris and damage up into the air. As it goes out over the fields here, obviously there's no crops in the ground or anything, but it may pick up dirt and loft that dirt into the air. Hopefully it's not going to hit anything else as it travels off towards the east. But if you're here near St. Anne, Pembroke, Moments, you need to be in that safe tornado room and let this storm pass. There's the updated look at the tornado warning. This is helpful. So what the Weather Service does is they oftentimes re-update the warning as the warning's still in progress, and it kind of narrows the area that's of greatest concern for the tornado. And you see that flashing red box still outlined by a purple outline. This is the warning zone for this tornado. So just north of St. Anne, south of Moments now, and then Pembroke as well. You're in the thickness, the concern spot here for this tornado moving off towards the east. Up here around Moments and northward, that's where the large hail is coming down, again up to tennis ball size hail. Greg was looking at that storm out to the west, and I'll just show you quickly the storm that was in the city is out over the lake. So the hail has ended here in the city. But Cheryl, we're going to watch these storms out to the west, because what these will do is kind of congeal into a larger complex of storms and then march right over top of us as we go into the evening hours, producing heavy rain and probably some more hail as we go deeper into the evening.
Oh, certainly. It's going to be an active night. If you're not getting in on any rain action right now, more to come, increase in coverage. But we do have this strong supercell thunderstorm that is capable of producing a tornado still at this point in time, right near Sun River Terrace, Holland Forest Preserve. This is crossing over the Kankakee River between Kankakee Elks Country Club, Holland Forest Preserve. It will continue crossing over Route 1 there and then getting very close between Moments and St. Anne. So if you live in any of these areas, you need to be in your safe spot. Hopkins Park, we're also getting a word in from the National Weather Service that there are reports of damage. This is a large confirmed tornado on the ground at this point in time. So anyone in this zone, this is a very dangerous situation. There's a lot lot of open land here, but also we do have some homes and folks in this region and in this area. You need to be in your safe spot, lowest level of your home, in an interior room away from walls and windows. I do want to switch over to velocity, get the very latest, because not only are we dealing with a tornado at this point in time, very heavy rain with considerable size hail. Some of these storms are capable of producing baseball to tennis ball size hail. But we switched to velocity and we are still getting a very strong signature here. You can see the greens next to the reds there, just to the south of Sun River Terrace, moving to the east at about 25 to 30 miles per hour, not moving that quickly. So it is capable of producing a lot of damage as it continues to move across this area. Not at a very, very fast pace. So some of these areas are getting hit hard as this continues to travel to the east. You can see the updated scan there, velocity, but we're still finding that couplet very close. Also getting reports of very large hail within this storm. It is just a messy evening out there with this tornado warning that will remain in effect until 7 p.m. for this region. Widening this out just a bit, there's that warned zone. So we're watching out ahead of it because it's moving to the east. Moments, you are just to the north of the tornado warning, but with that said, you need to stay indoors because considerable hail, very large destructive hail, cannot be ruled out falling from this supercell. Pembroke, heads up, this is heading in your direction. You're in that zone. St. Anne, just off to the south. Think you're going to be okay and safe with that tornado just up to the north of you as it continues to cross over Route 1 there, and it will be heading off to the east. And then we're going to have to watch out for northwest Indiana for all of you in southern Lake County, also northern Newton County, because this storm has also had a history of producing tornadoes back in Livingston County. It's picking up on that boundary across the area.
I've got an update on the location too. Just in, it's east of Aroma Park right now. Likely rain wrap, which means it's not visible because rain is wrapped in around it, so it's difficult for the spotters to see. Of course, sunset's coming up at about 6:55 or so. So we're keeping an eye on that. But obviously near south of Sun River Terrace, heading to the north side of Hopkins Park. That's this spot right now where this tornado is likely on the ground. So again, just east of Aroma Park, south of Sun River Terrace, heading towards the north side of Hopkins Park. Those are the areas where you definitely need to be in your tornado safe room right now.
Lake Village is very close to that, Route 41
downstream
as well.
Yep.
Willow Slough State Fish and Wildlife Area for a reference point.
And there's the new update too. This will likely be continued into Newton County, as you mentioned, and probably the southern parts of Lake County in Indiana as well. So if you're down here into parts of northwest Indiana near Schneider and down 42 here, 41, excuse me, rather, down towards Beaver and areas there in Newton County, you will likely go under a tornado warning as this storm tracks to the east. So be prepared to go into your safe room at this time as well. And when we have these big stovepipe tornadoes, obviously they're very, very dangerous and can do a lot of damage. And one thing I was advised to do when I lived in the deep south of Texas when we had tornadoes all the time was take tennis shoes into your safe room along with a bicycle helmet. That way, in case, God forbid, your house gets hit by a tornado or any damage gets happening around your house, you're not walking out of that room into glass and debris. So I always advise you to take tennis shoes and a helmet into that room just in case. It's a precaution that I give to my family. I advise you to do that if you're down in this area where this potential tornado is yet to come through. So that's a very serious situation when we hear that stovepipe tornado, and there you can see it now to the east of Kankakee.
And Larry, there's reports coming in. This is not confirmed, but there has been mention of this before with multiple vertices with this tornado, which means you have the one parent tornado, but also other areas of circulation, which can appear like an additional tornado within this one supercell thunderstorm. So you have multiple vortices spinning at one time. Very, very dangerous, and just goes to show the strength and magnitude of this storm as it's hitting Kankakee County right now.
And we got 4-inch hail now reported in Irwin back at around 6:20, so about 20 minutes ago. This storm is producing tennis ball to softball size hail. This is that classic supercell thunderstorm that we read about in our textbooks when we were in college, and now you see it here on the radar, and you know right away just by looking at it, this is the worst of the worst in terms of severe storms because you've got a clearly defined hook echo, and what's happening here is this wind is going into the storm and rising up in the thunderstorm right in this area. This is called the updraft. This is where the air is rising rapidly up into the sky, and it's also rotating and producing the tornado that we're seeing. And as that air rises, it keeps the hailstones up in the sky long enough for them to grow larger and larger and larger, because as you go up, temperatures get below freezing. Those hailstones grow larger and larger until they fall to the ground. But the thing about tennis ball size hail that we're seeing on the north side of this circulation right here where the purples are, in order for a tennis ball size hailstone to stay up in the clouds long enough to grow that size, the air that's rising upwards has to be going at least 100 miles per hour or faster. So just think about that for a second. The air that's down here at the ground is going up into the sky, up into that thunderstorm at over 100 miles per hour. That's the instability that's going on right now. That's forcing that air upward, creating this monster thunderstorm, including that potential tornado that's on the ground right now.
Just a couple notes on the current location,
Yeah,
too,
go ahead.
because obviously we've got all this velocity data on the map. So I pulled up Google to see exactly, because there's a lot of farmland out there, right? To see exactly where the houses are. So Hopkins Park area is the area that I'm the most concerned about at this point too. So Hopkins Park, which is basically right here, there are houses there. There's something called Witness Bible Camp out here too. That is also directly underneath kind of the path of where we need to be the most concerned with this tornado. So again, just useful to know that there are indeed structures in the way of this as it makes its way off to the north and west. Of course, there's not just the occasional farmhouse, there's actual communities out here too. And even though they don't show up as a town name on the map, we know that there are plenty of them tucked in just off to the south of Illinois 1, and as this continues to make its way off to the north and east. Folks who do live out there in Newton County and southern Lake County, Indiana, this is, as Larry and Cheryl said, probably going to be extended there. Again, we don't see much competing with this storm. It looks very mature. Supercells like this do like to cycle, so sometimes they'll pick up the tornado for a couple of minutes, they'll get themselves reorganized again, they'll pick up a fresh updraft, an inflow to the storm, and then they'll put the tornado back down again. So that is what we're gonna have to watch. Again, Larry, when you see something that's, or Cheryl, when you see something that's in this pristine of an environment with this much instability, it's concerning that it's going to be that long track tornado that we had talked about.
And you've got such a sharp gradient from the colder air and the warmer air down there, and where you get that warm front, you really get the classic spin in the atmosphere to happen, because you've got changing winds with height that allow these storms to rotate and spin and rapidly spawn some severe weather, including the threat of tornadoes. Cheryl, let's go back to you. Give us an update on what you're seeing right now.
I mean, I'm just following along right with you guys as we continue to update where this storm is, and it's not moving that quickly. So it's taking its time as it's moving through Kankakee County, which is a good and a bad thing, because we do have a confirmed tornado on the ground. It's giving us time to let you know where it is. Out ahead of it, you can get to that safe spot, but also it's going to leave a path of some destruction, which is looking likely from the reports coming in. We're now getting some photos I can see here through National Weather Service of some trees that have been completely snapped. Definitely some damage to some structures, looking rather weak out there. We have a lot of open land, but confirmed tornado here on the ground. This is now beginning to pass just to the east of Sun River Terrace. Very heavy rain and large hail ongoing with this storm. Likely rain wrap, not a whole lot to see as it continues to move to the east, but it is a signature here where we have the inflow to the supercell thunderstorm. It's feeding into the environment. The instability is there, the moisture as well as the spin in the atmosphere. And it's this one storm. And as Larry mentioned, it doesn't have anything to compete with. So it's truly just living and breathing in this atmosphere and continuing to excel in terms of thunderstorm status, and this will continue to push to the east, crossing over the state line. And I do believe out ahead of it, now we have a severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of this warned storm right now under the tornado warning. So the National Weather Service has gone ahead and said, hey, we're going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of this, just to make everyone aware. If you're in this area here for Newton County, Lowell, down towards Lake Village, I-41, the possibility still of this rotation holding together as it moves in your direction cannot be ruled out. So a severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible will be the game for your area. So this new warning just coming in from the National Weather Service for Northwest Indiana. As we take it a little bit closer here, this will be in effect until 8 p.m. So this does include Kankakee County, also Lake, Newton, and Will, as this storm, very strong storm, continues to progress further to the east here. But it is still holding together nicely in terms of that classic signature that we're looking at. We're still finding some high reflectivity here in terms of velocity and a couplet of the spin on the radar, and then extreme rotation being picked up as well within the core of the storm as it continues to move to the east. So just to the south there of Momence, but if you're in Momence, I want you in your safe place. Lowest level of your home, Pembroke and Tallmadge, areas we need to watch out for. Shadow Lawn as well, as this is crossing over Route 1 right now, well to the east of Kankakee, but in Kankakee County. This is the one cell that we're monitoring closely as it will be moving into northwest Indiana. I just want to widen this shot out here for you for a second, because we do have the one singular supercell here south of the city, Kankakee, northwest Indiana, but we have an entire line of rain and storms that have just blossomed over the last hour, and this will start to increase in coverage across many of our counties here as we go into the evening. And it's all about the dynamics and the storm setup today. We've been talking about it with a warm front draped off to the south. Larry and Greg, this is a classic setup for tornado formation. We have a lot of moisture and warmth to the south. Anyone Chicago up to the north, the main threat will not be tornadoes tonight. It will be large hail and flooding, but right along the frontal boundary, Kankakee, northwest Indiana, guess what we're finding? This is where we have that rotation, the spin, the winds begin to turn with height. We have all of that moisture and warmth feeding in to this area. So that's allowing for this supercell to really live and produce that tornado that has been on the ground now for quite some time. Larry,
about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, I just got a new update of the tornado warning location too. It's a smaller box than it was before. Right here is this small purpled outline box. Let me move the map up a little bit north of the banner here. There you can see it better. This is the tornado warning zone right here from Pembroke just to the south of Momence is the area where the tornado is located. Again, haven't gotten any new official reports in the past couple of moments of whether or not it's on the ground. We can assume it's on the ground because it still looks very impressive on the radar, and it's likely rain wrapped at this time anyway, so it'd be tough to spot if it is still on the ground. And it's moving off towards the east. So as Cheryl was mentioning, the tornado warning has not yet been extended towards Indiana. I was talking with the Weather Service, and they've been talking about the fact that they're going to look at it a little more closely to see if maybe it's losing some of its rotation. Getting now reports of multiple funnels extending from the wall cloud just north of Hopkins Park. So that's the latest update I have on what the spotters are saying. So it's no longer that stovepipe tornado, which is that violent tornado we had earlier, more of little funnels, which are those little spinner funnels that can briefly touch down. They can do damage, obviously, but not the violent tornado that we had earlier on the ground. That's a little bit of good news. Let's hope it stays that way as it moves off towards the east. But again, Lake Village over towards McClellan, right along 41, you're next in line for the worst of the storm. With the hail, I tell you, Greg, this hail from Momence to Grant Park, tennis ball size hail is still a possibility with this storm.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and the radar estimates it at like 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter. The radar gets this wrong sometimes when the hail
underestimates
when the hail is that big, depending on where the radar site is, depending on what part of the storm it's looking in. The beam height, I would imagine here is somewhere around about 3,500, 4,000 feet. It's not picking up the biggest of the hailstones and the ones that are making it all the way to the ground at this point. A couple of points too on this as well. As I mentioned before, I'm going to change my graphic real quick. As I mentioned before, with these storms here, they are not only in an uninhibited atmosphere, but they like to cycle themselves. Large supercells like this that are uninhibited by the air around them or other storms will pick up in intensity. They'll go about a half an hour or so. They'll basically choke off their own inflow into the storm, and the storm has to cycle, especially when it doesn't have any competition. It has the luxury to do that. So as we're watching this, and as I see that rotation, it looks to me again like it's choking itself off just a little bit. And there's the potential that over the next 5 or 10 minutes with the atmosphere that it's in, that it regains its energy and then it drops another big tornado too. So we cannot sleep on this, even though it's getting towards the end of its tornado warning box. It may again cycle itself and produce another tornado. A couple of spots that I want to mention real quick that are kind of towards the tail end of this box, and then again if it gets extended, that's going to be Tallmadge through the next about 2 or 3 minutes, and then cross the state line into Lake Village within about the next 15 to 20 minutes, and then southern portions of Lake County in Indiana, basically anywhere along and south of Illinois 17 or along and off to the west of 41 as you get into Indiana. Those are the main areas of concern, as this basically rides along Indiana 10 and Illinois 114 on the state line, across the state line at this hour.
They are going to extend the tornado warning into Indiana right now for parts of Lake and Newton County. You're going to go under a tornado warning here very shortly. Just got word from the Weather Service they'll be issuing that tornado warning extending into Indiana. So this will cross the state line with a tornado warning with it. Right now, we'll just wait for it. It'll take a few seconds to pop on the map. They give us kind of a little early heads up when they do something like this. It's just a matter of seconds, and then they put the warning out and it'll pop on our map. But again, the tornado warning will be extended here, crossing over 41 eventually. And right now near Pembroke and just north there is where that circulation is located, moving off towards the east, not very fast. What's interesting about this supercell, compared to the one that blew through the city that was moving pretty rapidly, this one is not moving very fast. And part of the reason for that is it's straddling and hugging that warm front to the south. And right along that warm front is where the best energy is. So you think about a storm that wants to survive as long as it can, wants to stay in that energy source, and that's what's happening here because it's staying in the warmer air right along that warm front. I want to switch over to the velocity data and put this into motion, because here you can see this is the circulation that prompted the tornado warning, and it's still so very tight right here where you get the reds and the greens right next to each other. And even the brighter oranges here represent the fact that the raindrops in this thunderstorm are moving rapidly in opposite directions, and that's where the radar picks up on the rotation. So that's really close to Pembroke right now, moving off towards the east. Kankakee, you're in the clear from this storm, but the worst of it is still in Kankakee County, moving off towards the east. And just to widen the view a little bit, because it's going to be such a busy night because we got more storms coming our way. If you've yet to see thunderstorms or severe weather, there's a high likelihood you see thunderstorms later this evening, with the concern for large hail and certainly heavy rain. Look back to the west. Red boxes are tornado warnings. This is right along that warm front, just to the south of I-80 back here in western Illinois. Once these storms move north of that warm front, they become big hailers, and that'll be the concern as this whole area just congeals into a large complex of storms and then moves right over top of us. And that's going to happen north of that warm front. I mean, this is really incredible temperature difference. It's 37 in Northerly Island, 68 right now in Kankakee. So that warmer spot to the south is where those tornadoes are kind of brewing, especially out to the west. North of the front, that's where we've got the large hail and flooding concerns. So just look at my futurecast here. This is 8 o'clock this evening. A number and clusters of thunderstorms moving right over top of us as we go through the course of the evening, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It is going to be a very stormy night here with very heavy rain and large hail potential. Eventually after midnight, the storms move out, but there's still going to be some rain left over for tomorrow morning.
New warning's up.
Yep, the new warning just came in.
Yeah, if you got it there, Cheryl or Greg, why don't we show that, because that warning's extended into Indiana right now.
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Cheryl.
Yep, it just got extended here for Lake and Newton counties in northwest Indiana. This does include Lake Village, so this is southern Lake County down into Newton, right along I-41. So if you're in this area just to the east of the state line, you're going to be in the path of this storm. And again, the structure on radar hasn't changed much over the past 45 minutes to an hour. This is still capable of producing a tornado. We have confirmed tornado touchdowns being reported with this storm as it moves to the east at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. So a dangerous situation. Again, we do have a lot of open land out here, but also Greg was mentioning we do have homes and we do still have some structures, and there are reports of some damage coming in from this storm as it continues to push to the east, producing the tornado here. So Larry was showing you the velocity that is still present. The tornado warning has been extended to the east here until 7:30. So a lot to continue to monitor. Right now, 6:56. We're still under the warning for another 30 minutes with a lot more weather to get through as we go into the evening. So I want to take that tag off, because just to the north of where we're finding that circulation now, just to the east of Tallmadge there, it's to the south of Shadow Lawn. Anywhere between Sherburneville to the south there of Shadow Lawn, where we're finding this white and pink, that is very large hail coming down. Again, we've been talking about reports of tennis ball to golf ball size hail, and larger hail is not out of the question when you have a storm of this magnitude moving on through. So to the east, Lake Village, I-41, and we're going to zoom in just a little bit closer, see if we can pick up on any other landmark cities for you. You can see Pembroke. This is just to the north of you right there. This is going to continue to cross over the county state line, and then we'll have to watch out for those of you from Lake Village down to Conrad, right along 41 there, continuing to the south. It's not a large area. This storm, where we're finding the rotation, it is confined to these boxes right now. If you're not in the warned zone, you're getting hit with the heavy rain with this storm as well as the large hail. You need to stay indoors. But if you're getting that alert, if you're getting that warning on your phone, now is the time to get to the lowest level of your home and basement, as this storm is still capable of producing a tornado. I mean, the velocity signature to still show this type of strength, this type of couplet at this point in time, as we've been tracking this for the past 45 minutes, is truly something impressive. It is in a rare environment for this time of the year. So much instability and spin to work with right now, and this storm is just feeding off of the environment and producing what we didn't want to happen today is happening in this location right now. So anyone in this warn zone, you need to be in your safe place as this system continues to pass to the east. The good news, what we can say, as Larry was mentioning, with all the showers and storms back to the west that will continue to push in across our northern counties here. Yes, we're looking at training. Yes, there are more tornado warned storms back there, but we talked about that warm front. That warm front is to the south, so these storms are moving into a more stable atmosphere, some of which will be strong to severe, but the main threats will be very heavy rain, large hail, and also those high winds. If we have any more isolated storms to form along and south of I-80, that's where we're looking at the greatest risk of the tornado. And as of right now, we have this one storm that is stealing the show, unfortunately.
And we got a new train spotter saying it's on the ground again, Cheryl. This is near Hopkins Park at South Main Street and 13,000 E. Very large tornado on the ground reported by 2 train spotters in Hopkins Park at South Main Street and 13,000 E. So that's the storm showing itself as producing a tornado again on the ground, reported as a very large one.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be doing a number in terms of tearing up the fields out there, as well as anyone in the path of this. There's going to be some destruction from this. It's been on the ground for quite some time, Larry. Yes, maybe it spun up for a period of time, but it's now been 45 minutes that we've been talking about this one storm producing this tornado, and the reports coming in of a large tornado on the ground of this magnitude. It's just everyone needs to be in their safe place.
And just a note too, 13,000th Street is also called in Hopkins Park South Main Street. So to get the actual street name, if you're not familiar with the street names. Right. And then as you head out off to the east of that again, the next spots that, you know, as you look at like the Google Maps, so landmarks, Bible Witness Camp is downrange from that. The Mennonite Church is downrange from that as well. And then as it crosses the state line, there's really a whole bunch of stuff that's basically on 41. There's a few gas stations along the I-41 corridor. And then there's also, of course, Lake Village, Indiana. And then farther off to the south of that, there's McClellan, which is out of the warning, but Conrad is in and Schneider is in. Out of these 3 towns, Lake Village is the largest one, but there's at least 1,000, if not 2,000 people kind of spread along that line for the population of those towns, all added up. Again, it'll be at 41 within about the next 15 to 20 minutes. So if you live in Lake Village, you have plenty of time right now to go ahead and take your precautions. If there's one good thing that we can draw from this, is that the lead time on this storm, since it's stealing the show, is much larger than in that average about 10 to 15 minutes that you see with tornado lead times. We've had 45 minutes of lead time out ahead of this because we've been watching it, and unfortunately, just because it's in such a perfect environment where it's going to continue to produce at least as long as it feels like it wants to produce. It's going to lose a couple of things as we start to see the storm weaken. It's going to lose the daytime heating, which is driving some of the instability, and it may also interfere with itself again. Sometimes these do fall apart, but basically uninhibited with no storms off to the south, east, or west of this until you head far off to the north and west. That hook echo will continue, and as I mentioned before, with a discrete supercell like this, it looks like it did go through that cycling process, Larry, and then it's now dropped another very large tornado.
Yeah, and this looks like it's going to ride right along along the Kankakee River, just to the south of the river where was the tornado located now. There's and this is a great way to look at the progression of the storm, because it goes through those cycles, as you mentioned, where the rotation gets strong, then it weakens a little bit, likely because it's ingesting some cooler air that's wrapping behind the storm. That can oftentimes weaken the tornado at times, but then it ramps up again as it sucks in more of that warm, moist air. And there you can see that circulation happening at the moment. I'm getting a look at the radar, and this right here is what we call a rear flank downdraft. It's where the wind wraps out behind the storm, and that's cooler air that wraps in behind it. And sometimes that can cut off the circulation. Let's hope that's the case. I've seen this a number of times looking at supercell thunderstorms. You get that rear flank downdraft, and it can sometimes choke off the updraft and the tornado, but then it can spin up again. But nonetheless, some signs on the radar are at least hopeful that it's kind of weakening a little bit, but still likely a tornado on the ground just now crossing the state line, heading towards Lake Village. There's Schneider. You're going to get some really large hail. In fact, 4-inch size hailstones, bigger than a softball, is possible with this supercell thunderstorm just north of the circulation, and that's where that wind is holding those hailstones up in the sky long enough to grow super large before they fall to the ground. So up here is where the hail is coming down, and there of course is the circulation. Let me switch over to the velocity data. Well, first let me show you this, because this storm is towering up around 40,000 feet. It's a very complex storm with hail in the core, the updraft where the wind is coming up and rotating, producing the tornado, and obviously some really heavy rain coming down as well. This is probably one of the worst storms we've seen in this area in quite a while, and it's moving right now over the state line. So you get the reds and the greens right next to each other. Just north of Pembroke near Hopkins Park right now is where this tornado is located, and it's going to cross the state line and then cross over 41. Right here's the Kankakee River. The Kankakee River is outlined by the county lines here in Indiana. So this is Lake County, this is Newton County. Right there's the Kankakee River, and it's going to hug the river just south of the river as it moves off towards the east here into Indiana. So that storm itself, again, tornado warning with it, and then back to the west. Boy, look at this. This is really just blossoming quickly out to the west. Looked at this just 30 minutes ago, and there weren't that many storms. Now there's a tremendous amount of activity out here to the west that will pass right over top of us as we go into the evening hours. Got a new severe thunderstorm warning out here for LaSalle County as well. Let's go in and talk about that real quick, because this is a severe thunderstorm warning right over Serena and another storm back towards LaSalle. These storms are capable of producing some really large hail, but they're north of the warm front, which is a super important marker we've been talking about, because if you're north of the warm front, which the majority of the area is, except Kankakee and Newton and Jasper counties, its hail is the biggest concern as we go through the evening hours. But around Kankakee, it's still 68 and 70 right now in Rensselaer. So Cheryl, we're keeping our eye on that tornado warned storm,
yes,
and more of those storms coming later tonight.
We're really concerned about Lake Village. So anyone watching us from this area, you need to be in that safe place. Not a highly populated area, but we do have homes. As Greg was mentioning, we have that main street that's running through the town. Also, the Lake Township Volunteer Fire Department is in Lake Village, so hopefully everyone's taking cover there. West County Road 957, Lake Village Community Park is right in this region as well. West County Road is in the path of this storm as well. West County Road 936 North, 943 North. If any of these roads sound familiar to you, that means you need to be in your safe place. I believe population Lake Village is close to 1,000, but with that said, we definitely have some folks in this area from Schneider stretching down towards Conrad. This will be crossing over I-41 here, and again, reports of this tornado on the ground have been ongoing for quite some time. It's dangerous. It's leaving a path of destruction. It is tearing up some of the fields and the ground as it's continuing to pass to the east. And out ahead of it, I just want to raise the red flag for Roselawn, because this storm has had a history of producing a tornado, and it's been holding itself together so well. Anyone to the east here, Roselawn, getting close to I-65 and then DeMott, this is the area that you need to be ready. In case that warning is issued for you, then you need to get to your safe spot, but you're out ahead of it. We're hoping this weakens, but with that said, we're still finding that very strong signature, the classic hook echo. It looks like a supercell that you would find in a textbook. So as we change over to velocity here, something that we've been monitoring closely, we're still seeing that tight circulation within the core of this storm and the tail end of it, where we're getting that inflow and we have a lot of rotation in the atmosphere to work with. So we're finding the rotation, we're looking at hail, very heavy rain and strong winds with this. Here's the guys, do you want to think about the correlation coefficient coming in right now? That spike there on top of Lake Village, that could be a sign of debris being lofted into the air right now.
I would agree with that for sure.
This is a dangerous situation.
It shows up a little bit on the correlation coefficient, which is basically a way for us to check the debris signature. You got it there, Greg?
Yeah, well, I was pulling it up and then my computer started to slow down because we got 3 people running a radar. But yeah, you can definitely see it. I'm going to try and pull up the correlation coefficient here in just a second, but you guys might want to take it because I got it.
Yeah, I got it up on my computer right now. And basically what this is the radar, the beam from the radar that goes up into the sky to look at the raindrops to see where there are and snowflakes and hail and all that stuff. It can tell when it's looking at something other than precipitation. So it can tell when it's looking at debris, be it dirt, leaves, anything that's lofted up into the air that is not rain, hail, or snow can be detected on the radar. And where you see these little yellow shadings here, that's the radar saying, hey, that doesn't look like precipitation, that might be something else. It's not really that well defined on the radar, mainly because we might be scanning a little bit higher than where the debris is being lofted, but nonetheless, there is some signature there of possible debris. And as I go back to the velocity data, you can see right in that area where I was showing the brighter shades of coloring, this is the velocity data. So this is measuring the speed of the raindrops up in the sky moving either towards or away from the radar.
And Larry, I just clocked that for you at 87 miles per hour, and that's just a radar estimated. So we know that that could potentially be winds higher.
Yeah, and what's great about the radar, Cheryl, you know this, is that it can give us those measurements of how fast those raindrops are actually moving to give us an idea of how tight that rotation is. And that's a pretty strong rotation signature when it's 87 miles per hour. I know we talk about the winds down at the ground could be above 100 miles per hour. But what the radar can measure, that's a pretty high value.
And there's reports of the Pembroke Township tornado on the ground, multiple poles and lines down. So the reports continue to come in of this storm producing damage. Tornado warnings and sirens are going off, and that will be extended or potentially extended here into areas farther to the east. This is getting to the edge of this warning here. So Lake Village, this storm is basically on top of you right now, and then it's going to be pushing to the east. So out ahead of it, Roselawn, a warning could be coming up for you in the short term. So please be weather aware, be safe. This is not the time. I always say this when we're tracking severe weather and storms. You don't need to go run to the door, the window, take photos or videos. Get to your safe place, lowest level of your home. And if you don't have a basement, then you want to be on the lowest level of your home in an interior room, potentially a bathroom or a closet. You want to separate yourself from the outside as much as possible. So we always say go to the center of a room on the lowest level of your home. And it's always a good idea to bring blankets and wear sneakers during times like this because of the potential. And there it is. The new warning just came out, and this is extending far to the east because this storm is not letting up. This is a very dangerous situation with a new tornado warning that has just been issued. This will be in effect for Jasper Lake and Newton County here until 8:15 now. So that's for an additional hour as the storm pushes to the east. So here's that new warning zone. This will be extended all the way out to almost the Wheatfield area. This crosses over I-65. Roselawn, we've been talking about you. We've been pinpointing you. This is heading in your direction. It's moving at about 25 to 30 miles per hour. So as we track this storm to the east, let's just see other cities that are going to be popping up on this. And Roselawn, this will be getting close to you at about 7:20. So you have 10 minutes now. Get to the lowest level of your home. Also Stoutsburg, 7:42. If it holds together, Wheatfield on the far end of this warning, that would be closer to 7:45. So a lot of new areas are under or in the danger zone, I should say, from this tornado that is moving to the east, guys.
Yeah, Roselawn, Forest City, DeMont, all in that area as well. And then this will be crossing over 55 and eventually 65 as it continues off towards the east. Again, just hugging that Kankakee River as it goes off towards the east. The purple box represents, again, the fact that this is a confirmed tornado on the ground. So we see these purple boxes pop on the map. That means this is a significant tornado that's likely on the ground as it's moving off towards the east. And just looking at the velocity data, Lake Village, please be in your safe area right now. This is basically right over top of you, crossing over 41 in the next couple of moments, and then heading towards Roselawn. If you're in Roselawn, please go to your tornado safe room right now and let this storm pass overhead. Hopefully it is not on the ground, but we have to treat it as if it's a large tornado on the ground, because that's what it has done so far as it's been moving off towards the east. There's the updated outline for that particular tornado warning, but again, it's been extended off towards the east here. And that rotation couplet, which is what the meteorologists call it, where you get the greens and the reds right next to each other, has been really evident for now going on about an hour or so. So this has been a long-lived supercell thunderstorm that has produced tornadoes, large hail up to 4-inch in diameter, and now it's moving through Lake Village as we speak, getting close to you folks over in Roselawn.
If I had to guess, probably the better part of 40 miles we've been tracking this, if not closer to 50 miles. It's about 10 miles away from the Indiana state border right now. I'm sorry, the county line border between Newton and Jasper counties. The reason that's in my mind is because that's basically where I-65 runs north and south, a major thoroughfare, of course, between Chicago and Indiana. So if you've got any friends or family that are traveling in between those two cities down there on I-65, this tornado will cross I-65 as a warned tornado within about the next 15 to 20 or so minutes. So if they're up off to the north, say they're in Merrillville right now and headed off to the south, or they're just coming out of Indianapolis and going to the north, no-go zone here through this portion. And again, it's about a 2-lane highway, sometimes 3 lanes along this stretch of I-65 if you've ever driven it. And as you know, it's tree-lined on either side with occasional areas where it opens up a little bit more into these fields. And there's turbines out there and everything like that. So there's a chance that if you do go through one of those tree-lined areas, you're not going to see this tornado moving from the west out off to the east and again crossing the I-65 corridor. By 7:30 is when it'll be right on I-65. Tracking a couple of towns that are in the way of it. Again, hopefully not going to be on the ground as it makes its way through Roselawn, but these are truly, as I go back towards Lake Village, some frightening velocity data. When you see this bright next to each other, these deep yellows, which just clocking a random one, a velocity of 83 miles an hour. Now that's just on one side of the velocity. Then you go to the other side to get the gate-to-gate measurement, it's called. And some of those higher values on the other side are closer to about 22 miles per hour. So just doing the straight up math on that, and you're already around about 100 or so miles per hour. Now, a note on where we're getting this data from. The beam height this far away from the Joliet radar, I should say the Romeoville radar, is about 3,500 to 4,000 feet up in the air. The tornado obviously occurring at ground level, and the worst of it up to about 1,600 feet off the ground. So this perhaps is not even clocking some of the worst, most violent rotation that is inside of that tornado. So that is why we want everybody in Lake Village, we're thinking about you right now, and then folks in Roselawn, you need to make your preparations right now. Get down into your safe spaces. This is probably going to cross 55 within about the next 5 minutes.
And Greg, we just got video in from Kankakee from earlier from this same thunderstorm as it moved over Kankakee.
Power flashes.
Yeah. So there's the tornado crossing over the road here. We don't know what road that is, but this is just new video we're seeing with you right now. And what's interesting about this is that obviously it's a relatively large tornado, even though it doesn't look like it's all the way on the ground, but it's picking up debris and whatnot. So this is a very large tornado that doesn't have condensation from the clouds all the way down to the ground. That was a power flash there. So it kind of has some multiple vortices in it where you see little mini spins around the main circulation. And we don't know exactly where this was in Kankakee. It has to be on the south side because that's where we got the reports of the damage. But nonetheless, that's our first view of the tornado from just about probably 50 minutes ago as it came through Kankakee. So that was the violent tornado that still potentially is on the ground. It's the same supercell that spawned that tornado that is now moving through Lake Village and then pushing through parts of Newton County as we speak. There it is. So when this was back over Kankakee, that's what it looked like for a brief moment in time as it went through Kankakee. Now you can see it on the radar image, and I tell you, this hook echo has been very clearly well defined throughout the course of the life of this thunderstorm as it moved through Kankakee County. Now right along the Kankakee River and just south of the river, where you see this little curvature right here, this kind of ball where it looks like a little like a hook echo with a little, almost like a little tennis ball sitting there on the side, the bottom of it. That's where the spin is and where the tornado is located, moving right over northern parts of Newton County. Again, Roselawn, I know Greg was just saying this, please get in that safe spot right now. Same if you're still in Lake Village. The storm is basically right over top of you, just about ready to exit the village, and right along 10 here in Indiana, it'll be tracking off towards the east, crossing over 55 in the next couple of moments. But Roselawn, you're next in line here for this potential tornado, and then it will cross over I-65, heading pretty close to DeMont as well as it moves off towards the east. So this is the tornado warned storm. The other thing I have to mention, because if you're up in the western suburbs, in the far western sections of our area, we're starting to get new severe thunderstorm warnings to pop on the map. So parts of Kane County, Kendall County, DeKalb County, a large part of LaSalle County, you're under severe thunderstorm warnings right now as those storms we've been showing you out to the west start to push into our area. So these storms that are out to the west are going to continue to track off to the east right over top of us. And again, they're north of the warm front, so they're hailers. That's the biggest threat, along with flash flooding from these storms, but they could produce very large hail. We've already seen that happen, and I'm really concerned that as we go deeper into the night tonight, large hail will be a concern for much of the area, maybe up to 1 to 2 inch size diameter stones. So maybe like quarter size or larger hailstones will certainly be possible as we go deeper into the evening. The tornado threat, and here's what I want to outline for everybody. The tornado threat for the next couple of hours will be primarily along and south of this warm front. In fact, in northwest Indiana, Jasper and Newton counties, this is kind of the zone right now for the greatest tornado threat. And then extreme southern parts of LaSalle County, southern parts of Grundy County, down into Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. This is the zone. If we are to get more tornado warnings, it would be in this area. If you're north of this warm front where it is cold, it's in the 30s and 40s, no tornado threat. You got to have temperatures at least above 60 degrees or so usually to get a tornado, and that's what's happening down to the south where we're in that warm, soupy air. Cheryl, back to you.
Yeah, no, all good points. And Larry, we were talking Friday. This is almost eerily similar to if you heard about the news of the tornado that touched down in southwest Michigan over last Friday, over the weekend. It was a single supercell thunderstorm that formed, and it created a path of destruction. What made me think of that was seeing the video that we recently got of the tornado and just the dark, ominous skies, but then you can see the debris being lofted into the air, and still getting confirmations of this tornado on the ground. So this is now just passing to the east of Lake Village, and here is that video coming in. You can see the turning of those clouds. Can't get a really great view of the tornado, but it's on the ground there. You can see just all of that debris getting kicked up, the moisture that's involved, and the potential of multiple vortices coming in with that shot as well. So just this storm is textbook like, bringing a strong tornado to parts of these areas. But I do want to highlight right now, for those of you that are in the path of this, Lake Village, this is now beginning to just inch to the east of you. Still stay in your safe place. We're almost past it. The worst of it is passing to the east of you, but stay there for a few more minutes until the coast is clear. If you're out ahead of it for Roselawn, you need to be in your safe place. Let's talk about some things here right along Route 10, Sun Aura Resort. We have Frankie's Village Restaurant. We have the Marathon gas station that's in the path of this. We have Roselawn True Value Hardware. We have the Save-A-Lot. We have a shopping complex. We have a Dunkin' Donuts very close to here. We have the Pizza Shack, Lake Holiday, Hunt's Family Automotive. If any of these landmarks sound familiar, or if you live close to them, you need to be in your safe place. This is a tornado potentially still on the ground that is going to really, it's knocking at your door right now, Roselawn. This is right along 10 there. It's crossing over 55. Thayer, you're in the path of this, Forest City, and it's getting very close to I-65. This is a highway that is traveled a lot during this time, evening commute, getting a little bit past that point, but definitely a heavily traveled highway here where we have a potential tornado on the ground that is continuing to move its way to the east. So please, if you're in any of these areas, if you have a tornado warning, if you're getting that alert on your phone, you need to be in your safe place. Fair Oaks, you're just off to the south of this rotation, but Virgie, I-65, 110, 231, DeMont as well, you're in the path of this. And again, any of those landmarks that I just said close to the Roselawn area, you need to be in your safe place. The possibility of this destructive tornado moving through, creating damage, and just a lot of debris getting kicked up as well as this continues to move to the east. I want to get a clear view of velocity. We've been monitoring this closely and still finding that couplet with this storm. And guys, if you want to weigh in here, the signature doesn't look as tight as it once did, but with that said, we're still finding broad rotation and large hail.
I'll tell you, you know what you're looking at, just for sure, because we were just talking about that a couple of seconds ago. And a good way also to do this, a couple of estimates of storm health, is to watch how big the hail estimates are and what the hail core is doing within the storm too. It's just an overall kind of gauge of how healthy the storm is. So I've got a loop here of the hail core from when it was really ripping around Kankakee to when it cycled to what it's doing right now. And I'm going to slow it down and back it up just a little bit for you here. Again, so this is hail 3-4 inches in diameter as it made its way out through the south side of Kankakee. This is about the time frame that we saw that video from. And then watch what happens. Remember, if you were watching for 20-30 minutes, I talked about it cycling, and this is where it looked like it cycled. It momentarily weakened. We were wondering if they were going to extend the warnings across the state line and into northwest Indiana. Look what the hail core did. It collapsed a little bit. The hail numbers went down. That was the storm cycling, as I had mentioned. It choked itself off just a little bit. Colder air had intruded into the storm. But then, of course, because it's basically got no competition there, it cycled again. And right as it moved through Moments, the numbers went back up to about 3-4 inches in terms of the hailstones. But now, over about the last 10 or 15 minutes, as Cheryl so astutely noted, things have started to quiet back down with the hail data coming out of this storm. And that is usually a leading, not a lagging indicator of the storm health. Now, it could be cycling again, but we are getting pretty late in the evening in the instability window for these thunderstorms. So I'm hoping, Larry and Cheryl, that what we can do is let this hail core basically collapse on the storm and completely snuff it out.
And the other thing, the other thing, Greg, too, is hopefully this is kind of moving a little more northeast, getting into some colder air.
Yeah.
So you look at the temperatures in Hebron right now, it's 57, 53 in Valparaiso. Drop the map for just a second. I want to show you the Rensselaer temperature. Drop that. There you go. It's still 70 in Rensselaer. So it's riding right along that warm front, ingesting that warm, moist air from the south. If this were to travel just a little farther north by at least 20 miles or so, or even just 10 miles, it'll kind of ingest more colder air, which would cut off the intensity of the tornado activity with this. So that would be the hope as it continues to kind of, if you look at the latest scans, boy, it's trying to move to the north and east, but it's still almost due east at this point. So that's where we have the concern. I was looking at the traffic on I-65. It looks like it's stopped obviously north of Roselawn right now because of the rain coming down. I know sometimes state troopers will stop the highway traffic and let a tornado pass. I don't know if they've done that here in Indiana. Hopefully they did, to let this storm blow over 65, but from Roselawn to Shelby right now, that's where this storm is located and possibly still producing a tornado. And then north of that is where this very large hail is still likely coming down. I know Greg was saying it's not as big as it was, but it's still very, very large hail, which can do damage to cars and your property as well. So a dangerous situation there. And look at the latest scan. Let's go, I'm going to zoom in closer here because
it's looking better in terms of what we want to see. Like a bit of a weakening trend. And Larry, this has been on the ground for about 40 miles.
Wow, yeah. And Cheryl's got the velocity data pulled up, and you can see it tracking from Kankakee off towards Roselawn. And I've got the radar reflectivity data. And what was really a clearly defined hook echo here has kind of merged together a little bit. There's still some opening here, so there still is obviously the updraft. And that scan that went through gave you a nice perspective of it because it kind of highlighted the areas that are deeper in color. And that's where the rotation is still happening, but it's not as independent from the storm as it was. And there, I see it right there. Look at this. So right here, you see this tail end coming down? That's one of those rear flank downdrafts. I was talking about that a few moments ago when we had it happen and the storm kind of lost its cycle and lost its tornado for a little bit. I'm hopeful that's what's happening now, and hopefully it stays that way. But again, sometimes it can cycle back up, and it does look like we're going through one of those moments where it has lost a little bit of its juice a little bit, and hopefully it just continues to fizzle out. But as it moves off towards the east, it's still in that warm air, Cheryl, so we're going to have to keep an eye on it even as it shows some signs of weakening.
Don't let your guard down, but it's definitely a good sign that we want to see at this point, being that we've been tracking this one storm for such a long time. And the fact that it started in Kankakee County, it continued to hold together. There may have been some pulses of it touching down and then recycling, but for a large majority of that point in time, this does appear like this will be a confirmed long track tornado that was on the ground. And take a look at this video that we are showing you. You can see that clear distinction of the tornado touching down that stovepipe structure, the power of this storm. Just all of these videos coming in, bringing to fruition what we are seeing on radar playing out in real time in our environment and in our atmosphere. The spin with this storm has just been remarkable in terms of meteorology perspective, but it's definitely leaving its mark. And unfortunately, there are signs of damage, reports of damage coming in. And there you can clearly see that structure.
That's in Kankakee, Cheryl. I got confirmation that's in Kankakee too, that stovepipe. So
that's
tornado.
when it started, and that was like 45 minutes to an hour ago.
Yeah.
And then it's still going on right now, traveling over 40 miles into Northwest Indiana, Newton and Jasper County, I-65, looking at the very latest, and we're hoping to see some signs of this weakening, but
and
still
Cheryl, give me
showing.
1 second, because I just got an update of some damage reports in Lake Township. The Lake Township fire station was hit by the tornado, and so Lowell Fire is covering for them right now. So got a report.
And we talked about that with them being in the path of that storm. I really hope everyone is safe there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so everyone in this warn zone, you need to be in your safe place. We're getting reports of people in Lake Village that just went through this. The worst of it is past you now for Lake Village. It's off to the east, but we're still, Larry, finding signs still of rotation on the map right now. It might not be as distinct or as clear as it once was, and we can show you that because here we are right now. And if we just take the timeline back a bit, you can clearly see the velocity notch with this. That tight couplet that we found started to form very close to Kankakee. We'll advance this to the east, and this was at 6 o'clock, 6:15, and right now it's 7:28. That's when this storm really started to form. And then we press it to the east. You can still see that tight couplet, and it's still holding together at this point in time. Not only the rotation, but also large hail being reported in the core of this storm as well. This has just been a dangerous, I haven't seen a storm like this in our area in a long time. So just to give you perspective, this is a textbook type of a supercell thunderstorm that's moving through the area.
They updated the tornado warning there too, Cheryl, while you're just speaking a second ago.
Yes.
New tornado warning, just kind of reanalyzing the box a little bit until 8:15 is this tornado warning. So it includes DeMont, Roselawn, and then areas just south of DeMont as well. This is including US 231, down towards Surrey as well, and then eventually over towards the Wheatfield area. You're technically not in the warning box just yet, but if you're in Wheatfield, you've got maybe 15 to 20 minutes or so before that circulation is over top of you. It's already raining there. You'll get some hail and maybe some heavy rain first before that circulation comes in your direction. But if you're in DeMont right now, you need to be in your tornado safe room right now, and that tornado is going to be very close to you in DeMont as it tracks off towards the east. There's Roselawn, here's DeMont. Right there is where that circulation is located. Again, it does look like it's kind of collapsing on itself, but it could be very much rain wrapped still on the ground here, crossing over I-65. So this is still a very, very, very dangerous situation. And Cheryl, you know, I was thinking of the last time we had tornadoes like this. We had the Naplate tornado several years ago,
yes.
And then obviously the Washington tornado quite a few years ago. And this, hopefully we don't see any damage like we saw with some of those tornadoes, but some of the reports we're getting, these storms have obviously caused some damage. I'm getting reports of power lines down throughout Kankakee County. So these are really devastating storms that are happening right now, with this one being the worst one. And then of course the other storms still yet to come this evening that'll produce heavy rain and gusty winds and hail.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And to talk about the timing of the year as well, this is not a normal setup for March. I think we have to go back to 2023, potentially, when we had a moderate risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center for a setup of severe weather. It is so mild, a warm front, and anytime, Larry, Greg, we always talk about this, a warm front really, really helps kick off supercell thunderstorms, and they can just basically move along the front. They take on the rotation, and it really helps trigger tornadic thunderstorms. And that's what we're finding out there today. But definitely a very interesting setup. We were going into this, we were anticipating the threat of very strong to severe storms. And unfortunately, this one storm really outdoing itself in terms of just in the world of tornadoes.
Yeah, and just the support it had. Again, my mind goes back to Washington. I spent 3 days in Washington after that tornado. I was actually working over in the Quad Cities at the time. And of course, we went out there to cover that tornado as it moved through. And the number one thing that I remember from damages we rolled up were all the debarked trees. That's how strong that tornado was. I've seen a couple of damage pictures, very early ones that are coming out. Of course, usually the worst damage pictures are delayed because people are more worried about life-threatening situations and sending in pictures, and I haven't seen at least any of the trees debarked at this point, so I'm hoping that this is a lower magnitude than that. But I'll tell you what, I haven't seen rotation on the radar in this neck of the woods that bad since around that time when I was again doing weather out off to our west. I want to reset us a little bit here just because we are, of course, talking about that storm that's out in Kankakee, but we're going to give that a couple of scans because it has looked like it's weakened a little bit and perhaps is cutting itself off from the most favorable flow as it moves along and north of that warm front. So I want to take us to those storms that are out off to the west right now through portions of LaSalle County, through portions of Kendall County and Kane County, and not quite warned at this point, but also DuPage County too. You are still in that severe thunderstorm watch until about midnight tonight. Now, these storms are producing hail. They're not producing the hailstones, the 3-4 inch hailstones, but I've seen reports of 1.5 to 2 inch hail out of this. So if you got anything going on out in Kane County, out in Aurora here through this evening, you're going to want to go ahead and just cancel those plans because these hailers will continue to move up off to the north and kind of ride along that here for the next at least few hours, probably to about the midnight hour. They're producing exceptionally heavy rain, and of course they're producing that hail too. Now the problem is I put these in just an hour-long loop is that they're starting to train along the same spot, and that is not what you want to see for flash flood coverage. Again, the hail, the latest reports, when you start to get into these blue colors, that's about 1/2 inch to almost 1 inch in diameter. Out there just north of LaSalle, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter. So these are still producing some good hail even in the colder air. So while you may be sitting 39, 42 degrees. As we know from earlier on in this evening, you can still see hail. Now, nothing like those monsters that were off to the south. Here is that tornado warned storm. Also notice too, this is perfect with the hail track, how it was moving northeasterly, and then watch, it's like it took a big old right-hand turn as it started getting a life of its own. That is a classic thing you see in a big, discrete, all by itself supercell, that rightwards turn, that turn from a northeasterly to a more easterly direction. So that aside, again, these hail tracks that are back out off to the west crossing I-80 are making a beeline for northern portions of Kendall County into Kane County, perhaps even DuPage County if they ride a little bit farther north along the front. Now, if they don't ride north along the front and they continue to stay on the same spots, then anywhere along Interstate 80, I'm really concerned about flooding here through tonight because these are producing upwards of 1 inch an hour of precipitation, and they may sit over the same area, Larry or Cheryl, for the next 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yes, and I mean, it's just really impressive because we've been watching this one storm, but Greg, as you mentioned, we are not out of the woods in terms of storms through the rest of the night. Just take a look at satellite and radar combined. In the red zone, that's where we have the tornado watch box. That's also where we're finding our tornado warnings. And then up into the yellow, severe thunderstorm watch. And all of this coincides with that warm front, where that sits right along that frontal boundary. South of the front, moist air mass instability is present. A lot to work with in terms of rotation, winds with different heights, the shear in the atmosphere. And then to the north is where we're looking at the cooler air mass. Chicago, it's not as muggy, it's not as humid, but we're still finding the storms. But look all the way back to the west. These storms are going to continue to train in. So if you're thinking you're in the clear. Not yet. These will continue to move along and north of I-80, and flooding will be a big concern, flash flooding, as we go into the night, as well as hail with these storms. Anyone getting hit to the north of I-80. I know we're getting some reports in from the National Weather Service. Let's see, Portage Township getting a report that they have no power at this point in time. Still the very latest. Let's get you back to radar just to, you saw the warnings back to the west, but we still do have that tornado warning in effect for northwest Indiana here for parts of Lake County and Jasper County here. So here's the very latest. We'll take you back, and we're still continuing to find that hook signature with this storm. So this tornado warning still in effect until 8:15 p.m. for Jasper and Newton. Let me take that tag off. We can move in a little bit closer. This is moving really just on top of Deer Park. If you're in Deer Park area, safe spot. Down towards Virgie, this is right along 110, DeMont. You're in the path of this. You're just to the north of the hook, but with that said, you are close enough. Very heavy rain, gusty winds, and large hail can be expected with some rotation in and around your area. To the east, we have Wheatfield and Walker. So you're just outside of the warning. We'll see if this gets pushed a little bit farther to the east. The hope is that it doesn't, that it's showing some signs of weakening here. So let's switch over to our velocity parameter so we can see still holding on to some rotation in and around this area. Our radar is picking up on it, and still some impressive wind within the core of this storm as it cycles through over and over. So we're still finding this rotation as we clock this velocity very close to Deer Park. Remember, if you were watching about 25-30 minutes ago, we were getting readings up to about 85 miles per hour, but that's just radar estimated where that radar is hitting in the thunderstorm in the upper levels of the atmosphere, but still showing winds up to 50 miles per hour is impressive coming from a radar reading. Those winds at the surface can be even stronger. And then when you start to talk about the physics and the cycling of the rotation and things speeding up, think about spinning a top on a table. It can quickly get those winds speeding up. So again, we're still finding some rotation. It is a bit broader, something we want to see, but it's not nothing at this point in time. There is still the possibility here of a tornado in this area at this point in time. Have you guys been monitoring the chat? Any new reports coming in? I've just been monitoring radar here.
There have been a couple, yeah.
Got a report of multiple spouts down, and basically they're saying multiple touchdowns north of 900 West and along State Route 10 there in Indiana. So several reports of touchdowns in this general area from DeMont down towards Deer Park and then stretching off towards the east. So in this zone right here is where we're still getting reports of touchdowns, and the hook echo is still there. In fact, it looks like it may be reestablishing itself on the southern flank of this storm. Getting another one of those hooks defined on the radar.
You're like
I'm going to
Virgie,
zoom out a little bit and you put this in motion, and we'll kind of look at the evolution of how this has played out. There, it kind of went up north again, and now it's kind of recycling itself and reestablishing the updraft, which is producing the tornado as we speak. This is moving very close to DeMont right now, heading towards the Wheatfield area. The warning has not yet been extended, but if it happens, it'll be in the next few moments. And with reports of this still on the ground, it's going to be extended over towards Wheatfield and then through the rest of Jasper County as well, at least this portion of Jasper County. But again, the circulation is still there. That hook echo is still there. And as we switch over to the velocity data, it's still very evident on velocity. Oh boy, it's still, it just won't go away.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's reestablishing.
Yeah, and what's happening is a new updraft is forming because we got two couplets now. There's one that's probably rain wrapped right here crossing over I-65, and then another one which I was showing you where the hook echo is right near Virgie and just north of 110 and right over 231 as we speak. So let me stop this motion here and point these two areas out. So there could potentially be two separate tornadoes on the ground as this severe supercell thunderstorm is kind of cycling itself. It's eating up its first updraft, and a new one is establishing itself back in that warm area. And as I switch over to the radar data, you can see these two spots we're looking at. This one is that traditional look of the hook echo. The other one is up here where it's more rain wrapped in the backside of the storm. So it's kind of cycling right now. We're getting two areas where there's potentially tornadoes on the ground, and this is moving off towards the east. So this one up here in this part of the storm will likely die off in the next couple of moments, but this one will likely continue off to the east, riding right along 10 here towards the Wheatfield area and the Walker area as well. So dangerous storm here. I think Kankakee High School is right in this general area too. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it's down this way. So if you know where the high school is, that's a general vicinity spot where you need to be in your tornado precaution room right now and let this storm pass on by as it moves off towards the east. And again, this tornado warning that we have in effect here for parts of Newton and Jasper County, it's in effect until 8:15 for that part of the county, and then it will likely be extended off into parts of Jasper County and maybe even southern Porter County. You might be clipped by this tornado warning south of Couts as we go through the next 15 minutes or so. Greg?
A couple of notes on it, just as I checked the overall health as you were mentioning. And yeah, that does look like the hook echo is coming back. So we're getting the representation on the reflectivity channel of the radar, which is the channel that you're most used to seeing here on television, where you've got, of course, the deeper and brighter colors representing heavier rainfall. It's also coming back on the velocity channel, and then something else too that is a good thing, Larry. You clocked this around, like, was it 50,000 feet earlier?
A little bit more than 40,000.
Okay, so we've dropped sort of. We're probably around about 35,000 to 40,000 for the tops of the storms. So it has lost about 5,000 feet worth of height, which you would expect as we get later on the night. And just in general, it doesn't have as much energy in the atmosphere that was built up from the daytime heating to work along with. But if this has proven anything, it's that without any competition from storms off to itself, this thing has been feeding off of all of the instability that we've been talking about all day long, and will continue to cycle until it feels like not cycling anymore. It's now moving due
Greg,
east.
it's been extended.
It is indeed being extended, the tornado warning. I'm just getting from my producer. And also the hail has started to uptick marginally again. It's not back to the levels it was, say, out near Kankakee, but I've noticed those numbers have started to go up just a little bit. So if someone has the new warning up,
Cheryl's got it up.
then we'll go ahead and we'll let Cheryl do it.
So unfortunately, with the storm holding together, we're still finding that rotation. It has been extended farther to the east until 8:45 now for Jasper and Porter counties here. So for southern Porter County and Jasper, you're in the path of this. And Larry was noting, let's switch to velocity quickly. The reason being this is likely extended a little bit farther to the north was because we started to find multiple areas of velocity within this storm. And that's what we are finding as we switch over here to velocity on our radar. And you can see we have one little circulation here, and that's why that warning has been extended a little bit farther to the north. So this storm is now regenerating multiple areas of rotation at this point in time. And this is the nature of the beast of a supercell thunderstorm. And then we're still looking at that main area of rotation that we've been watching this entire time, with the possibility of multiple areas of rotation with that warning stretching a little bit farther to the north now. So this area 231 over towards Wheatfield, I-49, you're now in that warned zone. This will be moving right along I-10. I-10 has been the focus for a lot of areas, Lake Village, Roselawn, crossing over I-65, DeMott, and unfortunately, we're still talking about this holding together as it moves to the east now for parts of Porter and Jasper County. So if you're in this warning, you're getting that warning. That means you need to be in your safe place, away from walls and windows. Basement, lowest level of your home, is the best place to be in a situation like this. We have more warnings back to the west. These are severe thunderstorm warnings, so we're concerned about large hail as well as flooding threat as we go into the night. But this storm, this supercell thunderstorm, which, if we put this into motion from when it started, it has now traveled over 40 miles because it's crossing over I-65. And you can see that rotation just holding together when it formed in Kankakee, crossing over the state line, and still at this point in time showing signs of rotation. This is going to be a long-lived and long-tracked tornado, and National Weather Service goes out to survey the damage tomorrow, guys.
And Cheryl, I've been watching the radar for those storms out to the west. And we've got a number of thunderstorms that have warnings with them out to the west, including our far western counties, stretching back into LaSalle, and then even up to the north along just north of Rockford, more severe thunderstorm warnings there. And one thing to note as you look at this map, there's a huge cluster of storms coming in our direction. That will overspread the area as we go deeper into the evening. And that warm front that we've been tracking throughout the course of the afternoon and evening is still situated right across Kankakee County and southern LaSalle County. And we still have a tornado warning on the southern flank of this storm here north of Peoria. So what is likely to happen? And I know a lot of folks are asking, so how bad is it going to get later this evening? Well, if you're north of that warm front, it'll be a stormy evening and a stormy night with potential for very heavy rain, lots of lightning, and some large hail. But along that warm front, which I have not seen move northward, it's kind of stalled out down to the south. That's where the concern will still be there for tornadoes. Obviously, now that the sun is down, it's very concerning when we have tornadoes at night, or any time of day for that matter. But of course, at night, it's a little more scary. So we're watching the warm front stay to the south. And what will happen is, as these storms track off towards the east, Cheryl, Greg, and I will have to watch the southern flank of these storms to see if they spin and rotate like that one is, and also like this one has been doing for the past hour or so as it moved right along that warm front. The hope is that this storm that you see out here to the west lifts farther to the north and east, and no more storms form along the warm front. That's unfortunately probably not likely to happen, but it's something we can hope for and keep the storms north at the front, where we'll just have hail and rain and stormy weather. But we'll keep an eye on that warm front through the course of the evening hours. So let's go back to the actual tornado warning we have still. Again, if you're in Wheatfield right now, be in that tornado safe room. Please be in there. If you're south of Couts as well, be in that tornado safe room. This is moving off towards the east, over towards the Knox area eventually as well. And again, it's just kind of riding along and just south of the Kankakee River with multiple little spin-up spots on this storm. In fact, we'll switch over to that velocity data. Still getting two distinct couplets now, one just crossing over 231, the other one just outside of DeMont here on the northwest side of DeMont, getting over to cross over 231 north of DeMont. So DeMont, you're kind of looking to be split by this storm, at least the rotation centers. But again, if you're in DeMont, Wheatfield, Walker, be in that tornado safe room right now and let this storm pass on by. I want to show you another product that we don't oftentimes show you. This is our shear tracker product. So this shows us where the rotation has been over the past hour. This is actually a 2-hour loop. You can see it started way back to the west of Kankakee and then tracked right over Kankakee County into northwest Indiana here. And that kind of highlights where the tornado was on the ground at different times as it moved off towards the east. That's a different perspective of how to look at this. So again, we're watching storms back to the west and keeping our eyes in northwest Indiana, but at this temperature difference is just huge. It's 38 at the lakefront, 39 at O'Hare, 70 in Rensselaer, and still 73 in Pontiac. So this sharp gradient in temperatures, that's where the warm front is located, and that's kind of the mark we'll have to keep an eye on for the course of the evening. Tornado threat along and south of the front. North of the front, it's large hail and flooding. And just to run through the timeline here, look at these storms pushing on through 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock tonight, all the way through midnight. It's going to be quite stormy. Storms will eventually kind of move to the east, but we'll still be left with some rain and storms first thing tomorrow morning. And get this, you may have seen this in our earlier forecast. Tomorrow, during the afternoon, snow showers. So we'll go from violent storms here today to potentially snow showers at times during the afternoon tomorrow. And of course, as Greg was highlighting, there's still a flood watch in effect until 3 o'clock in the morning for much of the area. And just to run the numbers on that, look at the totals being picked up by the radar here, or by our model. 2 to 3 inches of rain in some spots as we go through the night tonight. I know many of you are saying, I haven't got a drop of rain yet, Larry. It's coming, and we're going to get waves of showers and storms through the evening and overnight tonight. Greg?
A couple looks here at the storm over the last, about 10 or 15 or so minutes again. The intensity has stayed about where it has been, and something to note with where the location is. Now we have to get a little bit more broad because a couple of things are happening. Well, one, the sun is set, so the eyes that the spotters have aren't exactly going to be able to hit the tornado as well as it had earlier when we had some nice sunshine, especially with that direction of the sun setting off to the south and west and basically illuminating the most important part of the storm on the southern flank of the storm. Now, as we watch the southern flank of that storm, it is lifting a little bit north. Wheatfield, there's Stoutsburg on there as well, and it's along Indiana 10, and there's a couple of things here between Stoutsburg and Wheatfield that I want to mention. One is Kankakee Valley Middle School and also the high school. Now, I'm not so worried about, of course, the schools withstanding a lot of damage from this because they are usually pretty good construction, but where there are schools, there are also communities. And I was just looking at some satellite imagery, and there are indeed communities that are located right next to those schools along Indiana 10. So if you are along that road, anywhere between Stoutsville and Wheatfield, I know it's a pretty broad spot that they've got with this warning box at this point, but that is where you want to be in your tornado safe room until at least 10 past 8. I know that's a pretty long time to be down there away from all of the windows, but safe is better than sorry with this because of the videos that we have seen come into our newsroom of that tornado as it moved through the Kankakee area about an hour 20 minutes ago, of course, as the sun was higher up in the sky. Another view here from those videos. This is what we're worried about, right? It's now nighttime. These are also rain wrapped, just due to the direction that the storm is moving and also due to the characteristics the storm is now taking on. So you're not able to see this kind of stuff, that power flash at the very beginning as it crosses, that's northbound traffic that you see there, as it crosses that northbound lane of traffic through Kankakee on the south side of the city. And it snapped trees that I've seen pictures of over the last couple of hours too. Now the good news is the top of the storms has started to come down just a little bit. We're hovering within about that 30 to 40,000 feet, but I will say over the last couple of scans, we've gotten back up above. It's truly no shortage of impressing me that this is still getting up above 45,000 and pushing to 50,000 feet, which is exactly where it was where Larry was checking those heights of the storms a little bit farther back out off to the west. So again, Indiana 10, if you're along that in northern portions of Newton and Jasper County, you are going to want to be in your tornado safe place for at least the next half hour to 45 minutes. In terms of hail, which is again an indication of how the storm is doing, that has gone down a little bit, but still concerned with the peaks of some of those highest tips of the storm, the towers getting up and above that 40,000 foot range. This is going to cross 421 within about the next 20 or so minutes too, and we may very well track a tornado warned supercell with really impressive rotation all the way along the entire southern flank of our viewing area before all is said and done, guys.
This is definitely a long-lived tornado that's been on the ground for quite some time and over 45 miles. And as Greg was mentioning, we've been talking about Kankakee Valley High School, just very close to Stroudsburg. Anyone along Indiana 10, this is where we're still finding that rotation at this point in time. So it's knocking at your door. Wheatfield, really, truly, it's there. If you're in this area, you need to be in your safe place. We definitely have some neighborhoods in this region as well. Heather's Diner, the venue at Bell Farms, Wheatfield Lane, Casey's gas station, all of these areas around Wheatfield, you need to be in your safe place as the storm passes through, and then it will continue off to the east. We're still finding that circulation within this storm, not as impressive as it once was, but it's still there. It's still potentially rotating here. I haven't seen any reports of a confirmed tornado on the ground, but as Greg was also mentioning, that gets a lot harder to do after the sun sets. But when you look at our velocity, when you look at radar, we're here to show you what we are seeing, and still that green next to that red, the core of this storm that we have been monitoring for miles and over an hour at this point is still showing up. If we can go back here over the last 2 hours, you can see this storm starting all the way back in Kankakee at about 5:45, 5:53, 6 o'clock. I believe this warning came in shortly after 6 p.m. right there south of Kankakee, continuing its way, crossing over the state line, holding itself together still as a strong supercell thunderstorm, crossing over I-65 and still finding that rotation at this point in time. This is truly a textbook situation in terms of a meteorological standpoint. In terms of a tornado forming, this is formed. It's just been really a dangerous situation throughout the afternoon and evening, but it just goes to show the power of Mother Nature and what we are still finding out there. So anyone right around the Wheatfield area, just to the east now of DeMott, stretching to the east, I believe. Now, is this a new warning that was just issued out? I believe this is a new warning that just came out ahead of our viewing area. It will continue to move to the east here, but that will now be extended into LaPorte, Pulaski, and Stark counties until 8:30. So we're still watching this storm as it's formed in our viewing area. It's going to continue in parts of central Indiana. So now we have more counties out ahead of this storm. And it's just remarkable from a standpoint of watching the storm, when it formed. It's been almost 2 hours of this supercell producing a tornado at times on the ground over this area of about 40 to 50 plus miles. It truly is remarkable.
I really do wonder how many like confirmed tornadoes out of this we'll have. Of course, it's one system, but at least we've seen it cycle at least 3 times. We've seen multiple vortices out of it. I mean, it could be upwards of 5 or 10 individual tornadoes that have all kind of come out of this too. It'll be a long day for the National Weather Service and cold day tomorrow as they track this and try and exactly assess all of the damage. A couple of things, thank you, Cheryl, that I do want from housekeeping, again, going north of this storm system and up into the severe thunderstorm watch box. As Larry had mentioned before, your night is not over. If you live in DuPage County or Will County or even up in portions of Lake County or McHenry County, you're going to be dealing with showers and thunder showers throughout the entire night. And I've noticed that these have started to nudge just a little bit farther north. Now, that's a good thing in the sense that they're not training over the same exact spot with each storm, so that slightly reduces the flash flood risk. But still, there are localized totals that are going to come out of this around 1 inch to probably 3 inches of total rainfall. And then, of course, we have to track the hail too. Now, severe thunderstorm warnings that are active at this time are out there in LaSalle County. It stretches on the north side of LaSalle across I-39 and down the Interstate 80 corridor. But I wouldn't be surprised if this gets extended along Interstate 80 and perhaps up into southern portions of DuPage County and Kendall County too within the next couple of hours.
And Greg, I want to show you something interesting too and show everybody at home. This is a 6-hour time lapse of the storms from earlier this afternoon. This is kind of the current radar, and we'll run through the loop. We had just a tiny number of storms fire up, and then that big one developed down around Livingston County and then tracked right over Kankakee. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. That's the storm that's produced the tornadoes throughout the course of the afternoon and evening hours. Started as a storm down here in Livingston County, then flared up and got really intense as it moved over Kankakee County and now pushing into northwest Indiana. And look at the activity just blossom across western Illinois. When you look at something like this where you get the storms to just take off all of a sudden in the span of an hour or two, like was happening out west, there is a disturbance in the upper levels of the atmosphere to get the air moving. There's what we call like a turbulent little disturbance to kick off the air rising that spun these thunderstorms up and created this activity. And that disturbance, that little piece of energy is moving right over top of us this evening, and we'll continue to track those storms right overhead. This is a current radar view in just the past 30 minutes or so. And of course, we're watching the storm in northwest Indiana. And look at all these clusters of storms back to the west. And severe thunderstorm warnings for LaSalle County, parts of Kane County, northern Kendall County, storms severe up across the state line into parts of Wisconsin. And all this activity is sliding in our direction. And of course, we're watching that one other tornado we have, tornado warned storm. This is just outside of our viewing area. Here's LaSalle, here's Streeter. So this is still west of our viewing area, but that southern tier of storms we'll have to keep an eye on as they travel right along that warm front and track off towards the east. Storm reports. So many large hail reports across parts of the southwestern suburbs, right into the heart of downtown. If you joined us during the 6 o'clock newscast, we were tracking tornadoes. We also had large hail coming down here downtown on State Street. I know many of you here in the city saw, I got some pictures coming in. This is Kankakee of the hail damage there from these storms. You can just see the punctures from the windshield from that large hail, which was reported to be up to baseball to softball size hail coming down with these storms. Hail to 5 inches in Campus was one of the reports we had. And here's some more pictures coming in. This is always the thing we hate to see when we get hail this large, because it can really just destroy your car. The hail dents in the car, and if it breaks the windshield, that's very large hail that's coming down. So that's what we've seen with some of these storms down in Kankakee County, and likely still in northwest Indiana. The threat is still there for some very large hail. Haven't mentioned that in a few moments, but that storm that's right over Wheatfield right now and just south of Couts, still producing some very large hail, and that hook echo just will not go away. Still very evident here right over Wheatfield, tracking right along the Kankakee River, heading into Pulaski County, getting eventually over towards the Knox area as well. I want to go to the velocity data. Gosh, boy.
So Larry, there is a report that spotters are reporting a tornado right now near Whitfield.
Yeah,
continuing eastward in Jasper County.
These couplets we've been looking at, Cheryl, they won't stop.
They won't stop. This is, I don't know if I've seen something of this magnitude for this long on radar.
Yeah.
The gate to gate on that's like 100 miles an hour too.
It's up to 100, yeah. So this is still likely on the ground is what we've been reporting, and likely causing, hopefully it's in an open area, but right over Wheatfield, heading over towards Teft right now, and right along Highway 10. Indiana 10. That's where this is located, tracking off towards the east. So this general area, there's the Kankakee River, that little black line on the map. That's the river. Up here's Wilders. Over here's Railroad, English Lake. Probably some campgrounds here along the lake, the river right now as well. That obviously no one's camping because it's wintertime, but nonetheless, if you're familiar with that area, that's where the spot of where this tornado is located and tracking off towards the east. It will cross 421 near Radioville, just north of Radioville as well, is where that circulation is located. Cheryl, I'm just going to go to the hail tracker, then I'll toss it over to you real quick. But let's just look at that hail tracker size.
Also, it looks like there's a huge solar farm out there in Taft too that hail's tracking right over right now.
Yeah, and a number of wind farms farther to the right along 65 there too. 1.1 inch hail detected right now on the radar. I know it's larger than that. I think the radar is underestimating it because it may be actually shooting a little higher than where the larger hail cores are located or the hailstones are. So nonetheless, very large hail still a possibility with that portion of the storm, and certainly the tornado threat continues. That new tornado warning goes in effect and stays in effect. What was the timing on that, Cheryl? Do you have that? Or Greg?
I believe it was 9.
Let's see.
The which one? The new tornado warning or the
Pulaski County?
8:45.
Yeah, 8:30 our time, 9:30 Knox time, because they're on an Eastern time zone there once you cross over into Pulaski County. So yeah, watching that storm. And Cheryl and Greg, Cheryl, I'll toss it over to you. Starting to get some of these storms to move into DuPage County. Nothing severe right now in the near western suburbs, but severe weather farther to the west.
Yes, exactly. And we'll continue to watch these showers and storms here increase in coverage. We did have a new warning come out for some of our counties here under a severe thunderstorm warning now. And this is for DeKalb, Grundy, Kendall, and LaSalle until 9 p.m. You can see the line here of rain and storms. This is going to produce torrential downpours, and we're looking at quarter-size hail likely within the core of these storms right now, with winds upwards of 40 to 50 miles per hour as this comes charging through. So anyone that just got put in a warning, get ready for the rain to really pick up in intensity as well as those winds to pick up. It's going to be extremely gusty, and we will be concerned here with hail, especially for anyone north of I-80 as we go into the evening, because this line will continue to push in and increase in coverage across the area, and we'll have to watch out for a flooding threat with some of these storms. We still do have the tornado warning in effect. This is now just pushing to the east of Wheatfield and will continue farther to the east for parts of LaPorte as well as Stark County, still finding that rotation. This will be crossing over 421, so just south of Dewey there, Railroad, over towards Rich Grove and California Knox area. Heads up, this is heading your direction. We've been talking about it. Anyone in the Wheatfield area, as it passes, just let this pass, and then over towards 421 is where this will be crossing next. This is where you need to be in your safe spot. Let that storm pass. The shear tracks, we've been showing this to you throughout. This storm started to form close to about 6:15, and it just held on to its rotation. And you can clearly see that here with our radar indicating that shear in the atmosphere, picking up on that rotation right into northwest Indiana, and it is still continuing on. This storm, this one storm, has now traveled over 50 miles from where it began and where it initiated in Kankakee County. There's going to be a path of damage with this storm as it continues to move to the east. So watching that storm closely, a lot of lightning, and then all of this action back to the west. This will be our focus now. A lot of us under severe thunderstorm warnings, but off to the south and west there of LaSalle, just around the Roberts area there, to the west of I-55, there is a tornado warning, and that's along that warm front. So still anyone south of I-80 where we do see some storms continue to push in, our tornado threat isn't done after this one does push out. So big picture, severe thunderstorm watch to the north, tornado watch to the south. Anyone in the red zone under tornado watch, that's the area we have to watch out for the possibility of spin and rotation into the night. But where the core of the heaviest of the rain and the storms, where we're finding it right now, training across northern Illinois, all of that lightning, a lot of this is heading into the zone of severe thunderstorm watch. So the primary threats along and north of I-80 will be intense rain as well as hail, high winds, large hail, and then flooding. because you can see all of the rain that has to move through with this cold front that will be continuing to push on through. And we've been showing you this, the contrast in temperatures helping to trigger all of this severe weather today. Woodstock, Waukegan at 39 degrees, Pontiac at 72, Rensselaer at 70. This is why we saw that tornado form in Kankakee, and still it's living and breathing at this point in time with that contrast in temperatures along that frontal boundary, helping to move it forward as it just continues on its path. So the main concern for the rest of the evening will be north of the front, large hail and flooding, and then we'll have to watch out for still the potential of an isolated tornado risk south of I-80, because as we look at future radar, it's picking up on those storms continuing to move in. We are not out of the woods until we get to about midnight, 1 a.m., until this system pushes all of the rain off to the east, and then we'll start to see some cooler air move in. We'll lose that instability factor, which will be good. But what we are going to find is a little bit of a wintry mix in the forecast for tomorrow in typical Chicago fashion, a little bit all over the place. But this was a dynamic winter spring setup where we are finding the severe weather across the board. So that's a general overview, but still that concern will be severe storms firing back to the west, areas of flooding as well as hail. So we're catching a break right now from Chicago, DuPage, Will, and Kankakee, but all of this will continue to push in, and this will bring us the risk of some flash flooding this evening, as well as still some minor rotation. But any rotation, there's that tornado warning to the south, will be south of I-80. So we'll have to watch out for the southern flank here of LaSalle County into Livingston, and then Kankakee. Again, watching out for you. Hopefully nothing else fires in your area. You've been through it enough this evening with that one severe warning, that tornado warning still in effect for Northwest Indiana here as we go into the next 45 minutes to an hour, guys.
And Cheryl, let's go through some of the pictures and video we just got into the newsroom here with some of the damage reports we've seen in terms of hail and the tornadoes. I think we've got a series of pictures. We haven't seen them yet, but I want to share them with you to see what we were getting into the newsroom, because we've gotten many reports of damage across the area, trees down, power lines down, some structures damaged as well. And of course the hail video has been coming in as well. This is from Bolingbrook, from the storms that came through Bolingbrook and pushed into the city earlier this afternoon. Hail was coating the ground in some places. That looks like it's probably at least nickel to quarter size hail falling in that area of Bolingbrook. And these hail reports we had were upwards of 2 inches from Bolingbrook to Woodridge to Darien to near Burr Ridge as well. Here's some still pictures of some of that hail covering the ground. This is kind of what it looked like in downtown Chicago as well when we had the hail come right over the city, right at our State Street studio here at State and Lake. We had hail covering the sidewalk as well. This is all from the southwest suburbs storm that tracked right over the Stevenson and moved right into downtown. This is a, look, where's the, so hail, that looks like, I'm zooming into the screen myself with my eyes, about 3-inch to 2.5-inch size hailstones there. Do we know
Looks like
this
golf ball
Darien?
size hail for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Was this Darien hail?
And all of this is above quarter size, which means it's doing damage to whatever it hits.
Yeah, this was from Darien. So southwest suburb Darien got hit really hard with some large hail right there over this. There's another picture. This is Kankakee County, the hail that covered the ground there. You know, we get these big hailstorms and they can produce this hail. And the worst part is we had gusty winds that kind of hit these windshields. It looks like that's a car that lost its windshield. You know, one thing we talk about when we have hailstorms too is you never want to stand by your window in your house, because wind could blow those big hailstones and even break a window in a house. Look at the sunroof gone in that car.
Well, and let's talk about the ingredients coming together for all of this, because I'm sure a lot of folks are watching and saying, okay, what is going on where we're getting hailstones this large? And in these types of environments, when we have that cold air clashing with the warm air, we had a lot of wind shear in place. So that's allowing, and the front to trigger some of these showers and storms. It's allowing for that storm to really grow and tap into the upper levels of the atmosphere. And when we get those strong updrafts, think about like a strong push of air into the upper levels of the atmosphere. Well, that's tapping into the colder air, and that's where that ice is forming. The stronger the updraft, a lot of that can be held suspended in air and continue to grow until it becomes too large and it falls to the surface due to gravity and the downdraft of a thunderstorm. So it was just an extremely intricate setup today where we're finding not only rotation, the possibility of tornadoes, but also large hail, which we really haven't seen, golf ball to baseball size hail in our area in a long time as well. So just such an intricate spring setup here where we're tapping into very cold air aloft with the strong updrafts and the thunderstorms allowing for that hail to form and then fall to the surface. It's really been like a remarkable day in terms of science and weather here across the Chicago area. And we're not done yet, guys, because we still do have that tornado warning in
And
effect.
Cheryl, just to add something real quick to the hail. When you get lots of hail, you oftentimes get lots of lightning, because what's happening is those hailstones are bouncing off each other, rubbing against each other, and it generates electricity, and it enhances the lightning effect with thunderstorms. And sometimes, and you may have seen this if you looked at the clouds when a thunderstorm was approaching, it kind of put a green hue to the clouds, especially at sunset. That's the refraction of the light through those hailstones. It creates that eerie picture of a thunderstorm coming your way. So those are some things that happen when you have big hailstorms like we've had this evening. And just to show you the lightning counter, upwards of 1,100 lightning strikes in the past 15 minutes in our area. So there is a tremendous amount of electricity in the atmosphere this evening, producing so many lightning strikes. And all this activity out to the west, again, is going to move right over top of us. So it's going to be a noisy evening and a noisy night. And of course, we still have the concern for severe weather with large hail, heavy rain, and that tornado threat down to the south. And as I was talking, you can see to the south, I'll just highlight this. They extended that one part of the storm that has a tornado warning with it as a severe thunderstorm warning for LaSalle County. So hopefully this does not continue as a tornado warning, but we still have severe thunderstorm warnings here for southern parts of LaSalle County, because that storm has the possibility of producing a tornado as it moves into the extreme southern parts of LaSalle County. The storm over in northwest Indiana is moving out of our viewing area. It's moving into the South Bend viewing area, but nonetheless still a very dangerous storm there, and we'll watch these storms roll in from the west, Greg.
Well, Larry, as you know, when a storm produces one tornado, it usually produces more than one tornado, if it still has the advantage of the atmosphere on its side and it hasn't been out-competed or anything for air from a competing storm. Now, another thing to note, too, is that the atmosphere has had plenty of time along that front between the Kankakee tornado producer and that one that's producing a tornado warning now is just outside of our viewing area, and the front has not changed in location. We may have lost 5-6 degrees over the last couple of hours, but the atmosphere is still just as ripe as it was for tornadic activity if that tornado producing storm can keep itself together. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to watch that in Kankakee County. Another thing to note too here through the next couple of hours is, yes, watch that hail as we see that tornado picture from earlier on in the evening, because another note on why we've seen so much hail, it's March. The freezing level in the atmosphere is lower than it usually is. So this is some stunning stuff that we're probably going to have more pictures and video coming through the overnight, guys.
And guys, we just got a flash flood warning in, and this is something that we're going to have to be very mindful of as we go into the rest of the evening, because we have a lot of heavy rain that's going to continue to come in. So I believe we're showing you a video. That was a video of that tornado that was touching down in Kankakee into northwest Indiana. But this just in, now a flash flood warning has been issued for LaSalle, and this will remain in effect until midnight. So we have all of these things coming together where we're now going to find more issues as we head later into the evening, not just with an isolated tornado threat and hail, but with all of the heavy rain that is coming down at this point in time. We are going to find areas of ponding on area roadways. The possibility of flash flooding will be a threat, and you can see this has been issued until midnight. So this is going to be something we're going to watch out for as we head into the next couple of hours. As we put our radar into motion, there's that flash flood warning issued for LaSalle, and there you can see the one band of heavy rain that's coming in. We can look at the rain rates and see how much rain has fallen in this area as well. These storms are likely producing a 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch of rainfall in just a short amount of time, but they will continue to train in here from the west, continuing to produce more rainfall in areas that are already getting hit so hard. So this stretches all the way back to the west as well, right along I-80. This is not somewhere where you want to be traveling right now, or I-39, as this system will be continuing to bring very, very heavy rain over the next 1 to 2 hours. So flash flooding will be a bit of a concern here as we go into the evening. Want to take a look at some rainfall around the area, and there you can just see already 1 to 2 inches of rain being picked up in these locations locations. That will quickly go up with the amount of rain these storms are producing. Also, the possibility of hail in these storms right now. I can put on hail here with our radar as we track this. Where we're finding the worst of it, it is back to the south and west there, but we're still finding some pockets. This is likely dime-sized to quarter-size hail within the severe warned storm zone. So from Plano down towards I-80 here, just to the west of Morris, where we're finding the strongest part of these storms around Ottawa, getting in on some hail, but nothing like we saw a bit earlier or with the tornado warned storms. So that is some good news, but still something we have to monitor. But I believe we're going to begin to shift to a flash flooding threat as we go into the evening, guys, with all of this rain that's coming down.
And a note, too, real quick on how much damage they've probably occurred in Kankakee County and then in northwest Indiana is Kankakee County is 14% without power. 14% of the county is without power, and then Newton County is 33%, so a third of the entire county is without power, and then Jasper County is about 30% without power at this hour.
And Greg, you were mentioning the solar field in Jasper County. A report coming in, this is just an initial report of the solar field destroyed from this tornado.
Not shocking.
Yeah,
not shocking given the
Hate to see
rotation that we
that.
saw directly over it. Not to mention the extremely large hail. Good news is that they have, they can actually, well, in Colorado we did a lot of this. They can sometimes store the solar panels straight upwards, but that is just something that they do in the west across Hale Alley. A lot of the folks just don't see it worth doing that here because we never see the giant hail, 2-inch plus. So yeah, they can store those solar panels vertically when they see a large hail threat.
And going back to the radar, of course, we still have the tornado warning in northwest Indiana, which is moving into Pulaski County and extreme southern parts of Porter County. You're now exiting out of that warning, but over into southern parts of LaPorte County, a new severe thunderstorm warning here. And I'll just zoom in closer and show you that rotation again near Dewey, just north of North Judson. Back in my younger days, we had a charity basketball game at the North Judson High School here when I was working in South Bend. So I've been down there once or twice. And there's that circulation over the Kankakee River. And this is kind of lifting more northeast than it was earlier, so it is pushing into southern parts of LaPorte County. And we still have that rotation pretty evident on the radar, crossing right over 421 as we speak. The greens and the reds right next to each other. That's where that circulation is located and where that possible tornado is still on the ground. The tornado warning itself is in effect until 9:30 Eastern time, 8:30 our time, so another 15 minutes or so. And we'll see if it gets extended a little bit farther to the north into southern parts of LaPorte County. But from Dewey, just south of US 30, this will pass south of you folks in Wanata, so you're not in the tornado concern there in Wanata. You might get some heavy rain and maybe some small hail in Wanata. Dewey, you likely have some very large hail coming down, and then also over towards the Knox area. We'll have to see if this continues towards you. Currently, you're not in the tornado warning, but nonetheless, very close to you is where this circulation will continue to pass. So widening the view out again, we got a lot of stormy weather now starting to approach the northern suburbs and the western suburbs. The biggest cluster of severe weather is down to our far southwestern counties, and that will continue to track off towards the east with that tremendous amount of lightning. And again, the tornado warning that's in effect out here just outside LaSalle County has not been extended into LaSalle County just yet, hoping it stays that way. But again, the number of hail reports we've seen so far this afternoon, really quite impressive in terms of the number. Hate to see it. Some of these reports, Cheryl and Greg, were upwards of 2 inches or bigger hailstones from these thunderstorms.
Remember, we were talking about Aroma Park during the tornado warning, and 1 foot diameter trees down easily in Aroma Park, and then
5-inch hailstone in campus.
Yeah, 4-inch hail measured on the caliper out there in Aroma Park. It's truly a ridiculous size, and hail is one of those things that does monetarily a lot more damage than tornadoes do too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're stretching well into the millions of dollars total damage for the storm, just given how wide of an area we've seen the hail swath.
And guys, I'm just looking at the rainfall in terms of rainfall rates right now. Some areas showing up to about 2 to 4 inches of rain in just an hour. So this is impressive rainfall coming out of this system, which is why that flash flood warning was issued. And you can see the pockets here of where we're finding the heaviest rainfall. And as we take a look at that again, it's just going to be an issue with the flash flooding threat as we go into the evening. Stay close to Plano here. Just clocking in at 6.5 inches per hour in terms of rainfall. That's a bit high, but that is a radar estimate just to give you an idea of how intense the rainfall is in these storms right now. And you can clearly see that line of severe weather, the severe storm stretching from Kane County, Kendall, all the way back to LaSalle. And we have to keep our eye on the southern edge here. We've been talking about this little area on the southern edge where it's getting in some inflow. It's close to that frontal boundary where we have the warm, moist, unstable air. Some rotation not out of the question close to here. So southern LaSalle County, heads up. We just want to keep you in the loop here that this will be crossing into your neck of the woods, the far southern edge here of LaSalle County. So some rotation not out of the question right now. You're under that severe thunderstorm warning, tornado possible, but you just want to be alert and ready, weather aware, safe spot if you're in far southern LaSalle County, because there have been some notes on that southern end of that storm, that line producing rotation as it moves to the east.
And Cheryl, getting reports of potentially some gusty winds into parts of Kendall County right now, and you can see that on the radar from your perspective, and I'll show it on my radar too. There's a little bit of a Boeing signature trying to take effect here across Kendall County, and when you see that little curvature on the radar, that's oftentimes a sign of some high winds coming out of the thunderstorm itself. So the potential is there for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds right across Kendall County near Yorkville, just pushing off towards the east as this storm takes on a characteristic that has high winds as a big concern. Obviously very heavy rain coming down and potentially some large hail as well right over Yorkville and then stretching down to the south and west. And I'll switch over to the hail detection mode too, because you'll notice on the map when I do this, there are these little purple specks that show up. These are little hail cores that are developing within these this complex of thunderstorms. This is not as large of a hail as we saw earlier this afternoon, but nonetheless, maybe penny to nickel size hail still possible with these storms that are moving through parts of LaSalle County and also pushing into Kendall County, even up into Kane County as well. Not too far from Aurora, you might be seeing some small hail develop in that area as well. And this extends farther to the south and west where that big supercell thunderstorm is located that has the tornado warning with it. That's where you get the larger hailstones. When you have a supercell thunderstorm like the one that tracked over Kankakee and off into Indiana, you can really get the hailstones to get absurdly high, and that's what we're seeing over the Henry area out here to our south and west. So tracking these storms on the radar right now because they will continue to kind of push off towards the east and impact much of the area. The good news, I've been looking at this activity too, and one thing that is not happening is on the northern flank up here across the state line. You see a lot of activity here. There are some severe thunderstorm warnings in this zone, but there's a pocket of kind of quiet weather across the northwestern suburbs. Hopefully these continue to lift northward and this does not fill in, but the possibility is there that storms will fill into this area as we go deeper into the evening. And with these waves of heavy rain coming through, as Cheryl was just mentioning, the amount of rain that's coming down real fast, we'll have flooding concerns all the way through the evening into the early overnight hours as this just lingers in our area. All part of this real complex system, Greg, that just doesn't want to quit for now.
No, it does not want to quit for now, and I'm trying to get some Doppler indicated rainfall totals up at this second. I had to close my show and then reopen my show.
Here we go. I got it right here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So those numbers are going to grow very quickly within about the next, I'd say half hour to 40 minutes. But the good news is what I've noticed from the radar trend is that there is just a little bit of northward movement for those showers and storms. But still, that being said, even the latest weather model runs for total rainfall throughout the overnight hours, that's putting us, and this notoriously will underestimate this sort of stuff. That puts us at 3 inches or so out near Midway, 2-3 inches of rainfall as you head into northern portions of Lake County, Indiana, and also into Porter and LaPorte counties too. And as you see, you queried a couple of those, and they're up above 2 inches already in spots that see rain. You only have to see rain for about an hour, 45 minutes with how heavy these storms are producing rainfall to get up around that half-inch to full-inch mark, even 1.5 inches in a couple of cases, guys.
Yeah, Greg, I was looking at some of those radar reflectivity radar estimates of rainfall, 2 to 3 inches here from northern parts of LaSalle County into parts of Kendall County as well. These are the official airport reporting sites. So the Sugar Grove Airport, which is the Aurora Airport, has just seen 1/4 inch. So these storms that have been happening across the area have missed many of the major airports. In fact, Midway only saw 0.07 of an inch of rain, but just north of Midway, right along the Stevenson and over the Eisenhower, we saw upwards of an inch or more of rainfall right along the Eisenhower here, and then over the city as well, at least on the north side, very heavy rain coming down from earlier. So the potential is there for more flooding concerns as we go through the course of the evening, and of course the hail threat. Just checking in on the radar again, boy, look at that. It's still there, that hook echo, still really well defined here, right over the Kankakee River, north of North Judson, and lifting off towards the east. This is Pulaski County, south of the river, LaPorte County, north of the river, and this will continue to track off towards the east and northeast as we go through the next hour. Again, it's moving out of our viewing area, so it's going to be, we'll hand it off to the South Bend viewing area, because once you get into parts of Pulaski County, they can't even see us on TV itself, or in parts of South Bend when they start watching the South Bend TV stations. But we're watching the storms out to the west. Again, the warnings continue for parts of the line that's heading our way. Naperville starting to see the storms roll in. Can we take a couple of live cameras that are pointed out to the west just to see the lightning activity? I don't have it here on the map, but there's a tremendous amount of lightning that's going on with these storms as well.
And as these continue to pull out into the, of course, Chicago viewing area, Larry, we'll track it through the rest of the night here to give people a time frame on what to expect as they get those live cameras queued up for us. Now, the heaviest of the rainfall that's falling across not only DuPage County now, will start shifting out off to the east a bit more. This is about the 9 o'clock hour, so through portions of Chicago, we'll see it. Also down south, along and south of Interstate 80, we'll also see that heaviest rainfall. And what's very interesting to note, and so often happens with these, I remember back to the Washington tornado, same type of deal with a real strong cold front that moved through during a weird time of year. That one was in November, is that after all of the rainfall, which may even continue through the morning drive early tomorrow, we may wrap this up as some snowfall. Cheryl was mentioning this, so was Larry too during the newscast. 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, finally the core of the coldest air will wrap through. Wouldn't be surprised if we're standing here 24 hours post when we were doing wall-to-wall tornado coverage, talking about snowfall accumulation, especially in our northern counties, along with 2 to possibly 4 inches of rainfall through the rest of the night.
Yeah, and I think right now what's going to happen is we're going to start to get videos and images, and we do have folks going to the scene of where we saw the worst damage and where that tornado did touch down in Kankakee and northwest Indiana. And we're going to start to see signs of all of the damage that was caused from that one tornado that formed earlier today. And just to give you an overview of live Doppler 7 Max right now, we still do have this line of severe storms back to the west. All of these warnings here in yellow for parts of Kendall, Grundy County, back towards LaSalle. Severe thunderstorm warnings, but also a flash flood warning into the late night with the potential of some flooding because the rain rates are so high in these storms where we're looking at a quick 1 to 2 inches of rainfall in just a short amount of time. So some areas will get hit with several inches of rain. So the severe thunderstorm warnings in effect until 9:15. We take you over to the tornado warning that is now extended out to the east even further. This storm has been on the ground for over, I would say, 80 miles at this point in time. You can see the new warning that was just issued there for parts of northwest Indiana. Again, this is now moving out of our main viewing area. LaPorte and Stark still until 8:30, but then LaPorte until 9 o'clock. It's been extended even farther. So still getting that hook, which is now east of 421 and Dewey and approaching Knox. So if you have any friends or family out this way, you might want to ring them, let them know the potential is there of the rotation as this system continues to push out to the east. It's just been a remarkable standpoint watching this storm form in Kankakee. Here's a look at the shear track. So it's picking up on that rotation, the core of the thunderstorm crossing over I-65 and still going at this point in time. I believe we're showing you a live view now outside with our city cam, and you can clearly see a lot of fog out there, low level moisture around the region. I'm not sure what video actually we are putting. We might be trying to put something.
That's a live view, yeah.
That's a live view.
Hearing thunder here downtown. We're just looking for some lightning strikes over the city.
Got it.
There are quite a few lightning strikes a little farther to the west, but it's going to be one of those nights where it's loud at times. The house may rattle a little bit from the lightning strikes that are coming through. And of course, The concern is for large hail and very heavy rain through the course of the evening and during the overnight hours as well. Really through about midnight or so, and maybe as late as 1 or 2 in the morning is when we'll continue to have storms in the area, and then things will dry out temporarily before more rain showers come in for the morning tomorrow. And then tomorrow morning is going to be kind of a wet morning for us with cold temperatures. It's already pretty cold out there with temperatures in the 30s and 40s, but we'll have rain coming down in the morning with temperatures in the 30s and 40s again, and then we'll only climb into the maybe low 40s at times tomorrow afternoon with another cold day coming and potentially some of that snow mixed in, as Greg showed you a few moments ago. But tracking the radar, here's some of that activity now starting to push into parts of Cook County, the northern half of the county, getting heavier storms out in Naperville. I don't know if we have our Naperville camera available or not to take a peek at, but also down towards LaSalle County, this cluster of storms starting to accelerate a little bit, and that's often the case that happens when you have the potential for some gusty winds. And this line right here has the possibility of winds 40 to 50 miles per hour. So sometimes when you get winds to come out of a storm, it can accelerate the pace of it, and that's going to be moving quickly into the Joliet area. In fact, I'll just do a quick little track on
LaSalle County also has a flash flood warning out now.
Yeah, Cheryl was showing that a second ago, which is good to talk about again.
That goes until 11, yeah?
Yeah, so we'll just track this off towards the east, and we'll have it, we're reaching Joliet around 8:50, Tinley Park around 9:14, and Gary around 9:50 or so is the leading edge of this next complex of storms riding quickly off towards the east. Greg, do you want to highlight that flash flood warning?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now. I've got so many warnings up that I'm trying to get it to show clear as day. And it looks like it's just for the eastern half of LaSalle County, western half of LaSalle County. And that is, of course, for the torrential rainfall that they've seen out there over about the last half hour or so to 45 minutes. So for the rest...
Greg, while you do that, let's just take a moment to look at this camera. This is our Shed Aquarium camera looking at the city. Or, yeah, there's this Navy Pier. I think it's Shed. This looks like Shed. Tougher to tell at night. Yeah. But you can see the low cloud cover here in the city. We have really dense fog in the city right now, and this huge temperature contrast that we've been highlighting throughout the course of the day with temperatures in the 30s. It's 38 degrees right now downtown Chicago, and here we've been on the air for the past 2.5 hours or so at least, talking about tornadoes about 50 to 75 miles south of the city. This is how unusual this event is for us, to have temperatures in the 30s here in the city, 70s, almost 80 degrees down towards Pontiac and Rensselaer earlier this afternoon. And that huge temperature contrast lit up these storms and produced that rotation that spawned those tornadoes we saw in Kankakee and in parts of northwest Indiana. And now we've got a stormy night ahead of us as we watch the next cluster of storms come in. We're going to sign off for now because we have no tornado warnings in our immediate area. So Cheryl and Greg, we're going to stay here through the evening hours and keep you updated if we get more warnings. We thank you for joining us. Stay safe tonight, and we'll be here all through the night.